Buckle up, boys. Time to go to work.
Welcome to the Dan Patrick Show.
Immediate dividends.
Bringing you the biggest guests and best interviews.
Mike Renner, Pro Football Focus lead draft analyst. What should the Chargers have done?
They should have moved up. Quite frankly, I thought going in that was their plan. They were going to move up to get Tua Tagovailoa. They need to sell tickets. Tua's a guy that moves the needle personality-wise, with what he's done and the stats he had at Alabama. I think he's a much, much better quarterback prospect. Crazy to me that they didn't and stuck and got Herbert.
Talking to Reggie Miller, the Hall of Famer. Do you think that Michael single-handedly said, I don't want Isaiah on the Dream Team?
Yes. I wouldn't say for a fact, but I think MJ probably said, okay, I'll do it, but Isaiah cannot be on this team.
Broadcasting from the Mercedes Man Cave, this is the Dan Patrick Show.
It's hour one on this Tuesday, Dan and the Danettes Dan Patrick Show. Glad to have you on board. A little bit later on, the Blazers shooting guard C.J. McCollum will stop by. And also the comedian Bob Saget will join us as well. Your phone calls are welcome, emails, tweets. Jump into the chat row if you'd like. Boys are working on their own T-shirt. Tyler, the moderator, taking over with the chat room, keeping an eye on them. Paulie's here. Seaton's at home. McLovin at home. Fritzy's at home. And we hope you are doing well, being safe. 877-3DP Show. Email address, dp@danpatrick.com. Twitter handle at DP Show. And you can watch, if you like, on youtube.com/The Dan Patrick Show. The big German at the helm there with his sidekick, his trusty Robin to his Batman, Dylan, who once got us breakfast. Now he's doing graphics for us. You move up quickly here on the Dan Patrick Show. Let me see. We're also part of the Fox Sports Radio lineup, 362 radio affiliates around the country. NBA pushed back its date to reopen practice facilities yesterday. They were looking for May 1st. Now they're going to look for May 8th here. This is what I don't want to hear and don't want to see. The commissioner, Adam Silver, said this a couple of weeks ago. I'm not going to set arbitrary dates for us to return. Because what it does is it provides false hope. Also, as a citizen, you think, wow, the NBA's coming back. Maybe we've gotten through the worst of this pandemic. I think it gives us false hope there. We all want the NBA to come back. I just get nervous when we say, you know what, we're going to start college football on time. We don't know that. We're going to have the Olympics next July. We don't know that. It's nice to dream about it, but these people who are in these positions, we tend to think they have more information than us. And then you start to realize maybe they don't. So May 8th right now, and it's a lot for the league to figure out. And you got states who have different rules. Competitive balance is an issue. If one state says, hey, you can come back, and another state says, no, you can't. Like the Brooklyn Nets and the New York Knicks, they would be at a decided disadvantage here. You're going to limit 4 players in the facility at once. Players have to be 12 feet apart while on the court. That sounds like me when I was playing defense in high school. The NBA's not alone. Other leagues are going to face the same issues as they try to get back to business. And for better or for worse, sports will be a viable barometer of really how we're doing as a country. We keep saying we need sports to kickstart the economy. To kickstart the economy with sports, you have fans going to sporting events. We're not kickstarting an economy here. And I hope that we're not hinging all of our bets, the future, on sports coming back that will kickstart our economy. It's not easy. It's a chance for the leagues to shine by making smart and safe decisions here. Golf will come back. Golf's going to be the first sport to come back. And I understand that you can do that. You can have robotic cameras. You have, social distancing already. You're going to walk separately. Is there a way that you don't have to touch the pin when the ball goes in the hole? Like, there's things that they still have to figure out here. But golf could still come back, and I think you could have events. You just won't have a gallery there. You're going to come back for football? You're not going to come back for football and have fans come back. Students won't be back, but we're going to expect football players to come back. As far as the NFL goes, there are already contingency plans of what they plan on doing. Are you going to move back the Super Bowl? Probably a couple of weeks. And you're going to probably start the season a little bit later. Like, these are just thoughts. These are things being discussed right now. And I take you back to whatever it was a month ago when I said that they're looking at a 12-game schedule in the NFL. Like, that might be best case scenario. You might look at it as worst case scenario, but that might be best case scenario where you have a 12-game schedule. The Sports Business Journal had a report that detailed contingency plans, possibly starting the NFL in October, pushing the Super Bowl back to late February. I was told that they wanted to do the Super Bowl on President's Day weekend because then that gave you that Monday off, so you actually had a holiday for people with the Super Bowl. So that might not be a crazy thing. You might eliminate the bye weeks here. There would be no Pro Bowl, but nobody would notice. But the NFL is a big story. And if they get to that point where they start making their contingency plans, the other leagues will follow. Jeff Passan, who I have great respect for, works for the mothership. He said, according to his sources, we're having baseball in 2020. Okay. I don't know how we're having it because I can't say, hey, let's use all these tests for our athletes. But do people who really need these tests, are they able to get those? You just can't sit there and go, hey, we get tested every single day we go in. Okay, people who are still needing tests, that's not a good look. Not a good look at all. Are we going to come up with a vaccine? I can't imagine fans going back without a vaccine. And they say the vaccine, according to the medical community, is 12 to 18 months out. That's why when we go, hey, everything's returning to normal, there is no normal anymore. This is different. And how we adapt to this is really important. What we expect. It's like the draft. We adapted to it. We accepted it. How we go to sporting events, where we sit at sporting events, when we come back from sporting events. It's going to be different. It's not going to be the same and may never be the same. But that's why I think patience is really important. But when I see doctors, and a quote, fans may not be in stadiums until well into 2021. We can hope for this. We can say, we're America. We get through this. We got to get through the pandemic first, and then we get through to, hey, now we can go out and enjoy things that we took for granted, like going to a sporting event. We all need it. The economy, the country, we need it. We understand that. But you can't push up this time frame. And it's dangerous when we do it because I think it gives false security, false hope, and a false sense of invincibility. This program brought to you by LegalZoom. They made it easy to set up the right estate plan without leaving your home. Take care of your family today. The right estate plan at LegalZoom.com. Not to get heavy to start out, but that was what was on my mind when I started to read this with the NBA. And I applauded Commissioner Adam Silver when a month ago he said, I'm not going to give you time frames. And I said, great. That's really smart. Look at all the time frames that we've blown through. Like we ran the stop sign. We didn't even stop. We didn't pause because we keep thinking, we're America. We'll get this done. Of course, we're not going to stop playing sports. There's other things that we've stopped doing aside from stop playing sports. And that's where, if we have the patience to say, are we safe? All it takes is one person, one athlete. And here we go again. Imagine the NBA comes back. They got all these safety guidelines in place. One guy tests positive. Then you got a Rudy Gobert situation again. Shut it all down. Baseball trying to come back, we're going to quarantine you. Hey, you got to stay in this city for 4 months. You got to stay in that city. You're going to stay in Florida for that amount of time. I mean, it's crazy. Really is. I mean, Mike Trout said, look, my wife's pregnant. I'm going to be self-quarantined. I can't even go for the birth of my first child. There's a lot of things we're trying to think, and we're doing it in real time. We're doing it in front of people, whether it's on the radio or on TV. We're discussing what if, hypotheticals. I get it. But it's dangerous when you have an arbitrary time frame because then we think, oh, okay, basketball's coming back. Wait, May 8th, so let's say we give them a month. So June 8th, we're probably playing basketball, right? I would say probably not. If you get basketball, are you going to do basketball where we do a March Madness? Like there are all kinds of proposals on the table. In fact, everything's on the table. All of these leagues, everything's on the table. And we'll talk to Jeff Passan, the ESPN baseball insider, coming up in about 25 minutes, just to get his thoughts on how is baseball going to pull this off. Golf will come back before any other sport does, and that's going to be the first week in June. But you can practice social distancing when you're playing golf. It's you and your caddy, and you don't have to have anybody else out there. I get that. You know, I was told by somebody who covers tennis, he said, hey, I know you brought up tennis, that you could have social distancing. What about the tennis balls? If you're holding on to it, then your opponent holds on to it. Like there's things that you don't even think of. Because I thought, well, hey, I'm on my side of the net, you're on your side of the net. We don't even have a ball boy out there. He said, but you're still going to you're going to be touching the tennis balls, and so will your opponent. I said, I didn't think of that. So every time we go, I got an idea. Here's my solution. And then you realize there's going to be potholes in every one of these. I plead with these leagues, these commissioners, patience. Really, patience. All right, McLovin, what kind of poll question do you have?
Wow, I have a bunch of light poll questions.
That's good.
After that.
Yeah, you can lighten it up a little bit here.
Well, let's talk about Cam Newton, if that's okay. They released Vegas odds on where he might go. Which team of these in the odds would you go to if you were Cam Newton? I'll give you the Patriots, the Jaguars, the Steelers, the Broncos, the Bears, the Raiders, and the Redskins.
I would look at the Patriots first and foremost, because if I'm Cam, I'm going in to compete for a starting job. He's not a backup quarterback. Jameis Winston needs to be a backup quarterback. I just don't think Cam's ego would allow him to be a great backup quarterback. And by that I mean, is he all in and helping the starting quarterback? Would he go to Jacksonville and say, Gardner Minshew, I'm right here for you to make you better? I just don't see him. And Jacksonville would be another place that I would have him go. Because he might, if you let him compete for the starting job. Pittsburgh, no. Broncos, no. Raiders, no. See, I think the Redskins are going to give Dwayne Haskins one more year. And if they're one of the worst teams, then maybe Justin Fields is going to be the guy they draft. That's just a feeling I have with that. If you go to the Redskins with Ron Rivera, then you have to let Cam compete for the job. And I can't imagine, if he's healthy, that Cam would let Dwayne Haskins beat him out. I would start with the Patriots because of the upside. You might be playing in a Super Bowl, and you might have a chance to win that starting job. Jacksonville, if they give you a chance to compete with Gardner Minshew. The Steelers, no. Broncos are set on their quarterback. The Bears got Foles as well with Trubisky. That's a little bit of a mess. The Raiders with Mariota and Carr, you go in there, that's a mess. The Redskins, you could go in as long as you get that commitment from Ron Rivera to say, Cam, we're going to let you compete for the job. Because the other places, he would go in and they would say, your job is a backup quarterback there. Yeah, Paulie.
I was going to throw out the Redskins, but then that may make the least sense for the Redskins. They probably can't compete in this division. Even with Cam Newton, they would probably just be, at best like an 8-8 team. And if you stick with Dwayne Haskins, you find out what he is, and if he's terrible, you get the number one pick in the draft next year, and all is solved.
Yeah, I think that would be the approach I would have, that Ron Rivera is going to want his quarterback. Unless he goes, man, I'm all in on Dwayne Haskins. I don't know what that conversation was like when they said, hey, Daniel Snyder talking to Ron Rivera, you want to be our coach? Hey, I'm not sold on the quarterback that you, the owner, handpicked for your team to take in the draft. I'm going to guess he's going to go, hey, can we give Dwayne another year and let me see if we're going to make progress, and then we can make that decision. Because if they have the second worst record in football, which is a real possibility, then are you on the clock for a quarterback? You're not going to get the best quarterback in the draft because it feels like Jacksonville is going to be in that place. But Cam's going to get signed by somebody. I just don't know if he's going to go in and say, I'll be a backup quarterback. Yeah, McLovin.
What about a situation like Pittsburgh where Ben is 38 and then Cam could sit a year, get healthier, and then take over? Kind of like Jameis might do in New Orleans.
I thought Pittsburgh was going to take a quarterback. I thought they were going to, like Jalen Hurts was going to be a quarterback that they would have taken. And maybe they would have. With the Eagles, it's now reported that the Eagles said, hey, we missed on Russell Wilson. We don't want to miss on another quarterback like that. That's why they took Jalen Hurts, whether that's true or not. Isn't it amazing how many teams were going to take Russell Wilson? But I always say, you had your chance. You went through a couple of rounds and you had your chance. Like everybody, yeah, we knew we were hoping to get him like Dak Prescott. You know, we had a high grade on Dak Prescott. Well, you had your chance. I mean, everybody had their chance with that. Yeah, McLovin.
Well, people rip the Seahawks for saying they're geniuses. They did take him in the third round, so they passed on him twice too. You know, Russell Wilson.
I know. You just have these GMs go, you know, I was thinking we were going to, you know, I was told that we couldn't. It feels like it's a little revisionist history there. Yeah, Paul.
You can go back to the 2012 draft leading up to it. Russell Wilson was considered a high-end backup. They're looking at him as a really heady player, great scrambler, an improviser, a guy who led two programs to pretty good heights. He was not considered a possible starter. You go through everyone's draft profile.
I know. It's funny how that works where you'd go, really? Everybody knew this after the fact. We're going to have this with this draft here. Somebody's going to say, hey, I told you, Jordan Love, great pick by the Packers. Now, it won't be me because I'm already on record as saying, no, not a good pick by the Packers. Yeah, Seton.
I remember at the time thinking, man, I just hope Russell gets a chance.
Well, we liked him because we had him on the show.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And that was, I didn't have any crystal ball where I go, Russell Wilson's going to be a great pro. Like Kirk Cousins, I thought, all right, we like him. Maybe he'll get a chance. But I never was like, you got to take Russell Wilson. He's a leader. And Kirk Cousins, he's going to be a starter in the NFL. I felt terrible for Kirk D. Cousins when he got drafted by the Redskins because I came in on that Monday and I go, oh, my God, our guy got drafted by the Redskins when they took RG3. He's never going to play.
And Russell was in the same boat because they just spent a boatload of money on Matt Flynn. You thought, oh, he's
Yeah.
coming in to be a backup for Matt Flynn, the new direction of the franchise.
Yeah, McLovin.
I remember you took us to the Big Ten title game where Kirk Cousins and Russell played each
Yes.
other, and they were both throwing 50-yard bombs left and right. I'm like, wait, these guys aren't first-round quarterbacks. Why are they throwing 50-yard touchdowns every play?
That was a great game, great performance out of both of those guys. But, we tend to root for guys that we have on when they're in college, and then you follow them in the NFL. But we had no idea. We're right there with everybody else, but you start to hear this revisionist history. And we'll probably hear that with Jalen Hurts. Somebody's going to say, what a great pick, or that wasn't a great pick. Or it could be somebody taken later in the draft where, Jake Fromm. Yep, we were going to take him in the sixth round. Yeah, we thought he'd fall right to. Yeah, okay. All right, I hear you. All right, we're going to settle on a poll question there, McLovin?
Yeah, I'm going to put up that Cam Newton poll. Which team should
Okay.
sign him? I mean, I think there's a fair question. If you were Cam, where would you go? But I don't know that he has all the choices. So I'm going to put up which team should sign him with the top 6 Vegas odds.
Because this is really as a starter. And the Vegas odds have the Patriots number 1.
Yeah.
And who's number 2?
I don't
Jacksonville?
have it in front of me. I think the Jags are number 2. Yeah, Jags number 2, then Steelers, Broncos, Bears, Raiders,
Steelers.
Redskins.
Well, Steelers, yeah.
Because like you said, they need another quarterback in that depth chart.
Yeah, but he's not Duck Devlin. Like he's not Mason Rudolph. This is Cam Newton here. Yeah, McLovin.
Isn't that the problem? He's going to be better than half the starters he goes into. If he's healthy, he's way better than a lot of these guys.
But don't you want somebody who, if I'm bringing you in and you are better than my starter, then you've made my team better. You don't go, God, I hope he's not better than Gardner Minshew.
I mean, look at the Bears with Trubisky. You can't possibly have Cam Newton backing up Mitchell Trubisky. It doesn't make sense.
But you got Nick Foles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're not bringing him in. Now, if you didn't have Nick Foles and you brought in Cam could win that job. The Bears want to see Mitchell Trubisky one more year, and then they're going to make a decision. Now, the fans have already made up their mind, but there's a couple of quarterbacks here. Gardner Minshew gets one more chance, this year. I think Baker Mayfield is on the clock in Cleveland because with their draft, with that talent, I don't know how great Stefanski is going to be as a head coach, but Baker Mayfield's running out of excuses here. The Cleveland Browns have talent and should be a playoff team. And, so you're going to get that. Sam Darnold, is this maybe his year? You get one more year after this before you go, I don't know if he's our, franchise quarterback here. Mariota and Winston, they got their chance. They proved that they weren't starting quarterbacks. Now, they might get better, learn, and come back and have a Ryan Tannehill resurgence, but that's the way the quarterbacking position is. I'm going to take you. Can you start? Can I get that rookie contract? If so, great. Now we build our team. If not, I got a 2-year window, maybe 3 at the most, and then you say, all right, you're not our future. Now we got to draft another quarterback. Yeah, Paul.
You were going to talk about that 2012 draft. If you look at the career passing yardage for the 2012 draft of quarterbacks taken, it's really fascinating. Russell Wilson is by far number 1. Then it's Cousins. Then it's Tannehill. Then Luck, who's done. Nick Foles is in 5th in yardage for his career, and he's got a Super Bowl ring and MVP. Robert Griffin, who is a star, is 6th. And Osweiler 7th. That's a fascinating draft.
But it just goes to show you, it's an inexact science when you draft that position. You got 4th round picks there, 3rd round picks there, a number 1 overall. Nick Foles was a 3rd, RG3 1st round. Like it's really who you get with your offensive coordinator, the talent around you. It's not just the quarterback himself. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. Talk a little bit more about the Bulls documentary. And when Michael Jordan decided that he was going to do the documentary, the day that he decided to do the documentary, just a coincidence or calculated by Michael? 21 after the hour. Thank you, Paul. This is the Dan Patrick Show. 1-800-Flowers.com. When you order flowers, I was going to say if you order flowers. No, when you order flowers for Mother's Day, this is the way to go. 1-800-Flowers.com. Committed to, the safety of delivering those flowers to you as well. They've thought of everything. They want to make sure you get these multicolored roses for under $40. There's 24 of these. They're $39.99, an amazing offer, and they will deliver that bouquet in time to make Mom's Day special. The safety of their team members and your family. All deliveries are contactless. They will have the delivery there. You don't have to have any interaction whatsoever. You get a bright, beautiful mix of roses, rainbow of colors, guaranteed to make her smile. And it's not just Mom. It's your grandmother, and it could be your mother-in-law. In fact, if you do the mom roses, go mother-in-law too. Just saying. Just word of advice. 24 multicolored roses, $39.99. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com. Click on the radio icon. Enter the code Patrick. 1-800-Flowers.com. Code is Patrick. Hurry, the offer ends Wednesday. Does Michael Jordan think he could beat you right now?
Of course he does. This is Michael Jordan, and the way he thinks, absolutely.
Could he?
I wouldn't let him. I can't let him. I'm gonna put up a fight for sure.
Are you afraid to say that Jordan couldn't beat you because you know Mike is so competitive that he would?
I know Mike, and I know how competitive he is, and I know if it's a one-on-one with no referee, I've played against him in that setting before, and I know very little foul call. He won't allow very many foul calls against him, which is just not right. It's just not right.
But you could beat Jordan one-on-one now.
I think I can. This as of right now, today, this week.
Yeah.
I think so because I'm playing. He's not playing. So I definitely have to use that to my advantage. The longer the game plays out, I think if we play the 3, it's different. We played a 10. I like my chances.
All right.
I got a shot.
How about this? Both 24, both dunking. Dunk contest, you and Jordan.
I like me in the dunk contest. I can't step down from that one.
It's amazing.
Great player all time. I give it to Mike.
But, Vince, you know what's interesting? Even Reggie Miller, when I have him on once a week, and Reggie's about the same age as Mike, everybody is nervous still about saying anything about Jordan.
I agree. Like my legs are shivering over here. Like, I don't want to see Mike. He's like, yo, you think you can out-dunk him? Well, I mean, Mike, that's the only shot I have against you, buddy. That's it. That's it.
Congrats on last night. I hope there's no reason to retire, is there?
No, I don't think so. I hear people tell me, you're doing this for what? I still love the game. I'm still able to play the game. When my body says it's had enough, it's had enough. When the love is gone, I'll walk away. But, I still think I could play this game at a high level and compete. And, every opportunity I get to kind of be the old VC that we know, I'm going to do it.
So you're coming back next year?
Yes.
Nice. And you can guard Lonzo
Absolutely.
Ball.
I'll try. Probably so.
But don't try to guard his dad because he could score on you.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I'll just follow him and put it at the free throw line. Why not?
Safe travels there. Congrats again on last night, Vincent. Always great to catch up with you. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, that's Vince Carter, Memphis Grizzlies guard. Coming back next year, age of 41. They are so nervous now to say anything about Jordan. Now. Jordan's still a killer. Dan Patrick Show brought to you by Mercedes-AMG. Be prepared for whatever comes your way. It's the all-new GT four-door coupe because life is a race. Visit your local dealership for a test drive today. If you missed any of the interviews from the Mercedes-AMG Man Cave, go to the DP Show app. Watch and listen from inside the Mercedes-AMG Man Cave. Mercedes-AMG driving performance. Jeff Passan from the mothership says we will have baseball this year. We'll talk to him about what is the latest plan and how it works. The Pistons, or at least some of the marquee players, feel like they're on a apology tour. Isaiah Thomas is. Bill Laimbeer is not apologizing for anything. And I love that. Isaiah, for some reason, is apologizing for how he treated Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. And I'll have that for you coming up in a little bit. I want to make sure we have time for Jeff Passan to talk about this baseball stuff. But Isaiah was on ESPN talking about this. Bill Laimbeer, the former NBA player with the Bad Boys. Your nickname was the Bad Boys. You don't apologize. It'd be like you're the Hells Angels. Man, we're really sorry. We might have done some bad things there. You're the Hells Angel. The Pistons were the Hells Angels of basketball. They took no prisoners. They made no apologies. And you know what? The fact that they passed the blame onto the Celtics and said, well, the Celtics did it to us. Maybe they did, and maybe they were actually being truthful when they said, we were not going to stay on the floor with the game not in question any longer and be engulfed by these Pistons fans. Maybe. I will say this, though. Isaiah Thomas reportedly reached out to the Celtics, and it might have been Kevin McHale, to ask him, how do we get past you? And I'm paraphrasing here. He wanted to know because they kept running into the Celtics and they couldn't beat the Celtics. And Isaiah wanted to know how to beat the Celtics. And I think that he talked to Kevin McHale about this. And you'll see after that series is over, Isaiah is walking with Kevin McHale off the floor. So I don't know what Isaiah saw, felt, thought, but if I'm the Bulls, I hold a grudge, because if I'm Michael, I hold a grudge. That's Michael. Like, I'm not surprised with any of this. I mean, Michael wasn't a good guy on the floor, folks. He was a spectacular player. He wasn't a good guy. You know, he would hold grudges, whether it was with teammates or opponents. He wasn't easy to get along with. He had his own agenda there. But what he did on the basketball floor was what set him apart. And the Pistons, don't make apologies. You're the Pistons. That's the last thing I want to hear. And don't do a sob story or we should feel sorry for you either. You're the Pistons. You know, this is mean-spirited that we have to keep talking about this. No, you're the Pistons. You earned it. They beat you. You don't want to shake their... Would I like to have seen them as sportsmen? Yes, I would. But back then, there was no sportsmanship. It was great TV. I wanted to mean something. I wanted it to hurt. I wanted you to carry that grudge. I'm still angry over something that happened in my senior year in high school.
Let's get into it.
Oakwood Lumberjacks, those jerks, they played a boxing one on me. Nobody could guard me one-on-one. I'm still angry over that. And I'll carry it to my grave. I will. It'll be on my if those Oakwood Lumberjack, they probably love the fact that they're still in my head. But they are. They're renting space in my head. Guarding me with a boxing one. Shameful.
Bush League.
Yeah. Soft. All right. We'll talk a little bit more about this. We'll hear from Isaiah and Bill Laimbeer. That'll be coming up. Jeff Passan, ESPN baseball insider, and caught my attention. Apparently we're going to have baseball this year. Jeff, I'm all ears. When are we having baseball?
It's a great question. Answer is I have no idea. And
thanks for coming on, Jeff. We'll talk to you later.
I was going to say, Dan, it has been great. Thank you so much, as always, for having me.
What's the latest plan?
You know, it's funny. The people at Major League Baseball, well, they don't like talking about plans, which is odd, because to go forward, you need a plan, right? You need a plan. You need to have it well laid out. You need to execute it. You need to understand that there are going to be flaws in it. There are going to be stumbles along the way. No plan goes according to plan. And the fact that they haven't committed to one yet, it's part of the process that they're going through right now. Now, I don't know if this is the right approach to take. You know, some would argue that you settle on a plan early and you do everything you can to make it work. But I think that what baseball sees right now is a landscape that we don't understand. We have no idea what next week is going to be like. We have no idea what next month is going to be like. And because of that, their plan is to give themselves flexibility and work on all the details surrounding it that will, no matter what they choose, whether it is going to a biosphere in Arizona or going to a 3-city hub plan where they have people stationed in Phoenix metropolitan area, Dallas metropolitan area, and Tampa St. Pete area, or doing a 5-city plan where you add Miami and Houston to the mix. No matter what they do, they need to have testing, for example, and they need to have umpires in particular places, and they need all these logistical things, and that's the stuff they're trying to take care of now. So when they do figure out what the best plan is, they can execute it.
All right, but you say, and you're quoted, there will be baseball in 2020.
Yes.
And
I do believe that. And I believe that because I think all of the parties involved are extremely motivated to have baseball in some form or fashion. I also think that because maybe I'm trying to be optimistic in this time where optimism is in short supply, but I'm not allowing that optimism to guide me to this place where baseball coming back is not realistic. I see the country reopening, and I know that we're going to have stumbles along the way, and I understand that that's part of it. But I also think there's a recognition that getting back to life, like some form of what we had before coronavirus, is an imperative. And that baseball is going to be a part of that. It's not going to be a part of that with fans in all likelihood. But I think there's a very reasonable way that games can be played under a variety of circumstances. And it's just a matter of baseball figuring out which one suits all of the parties involved best.
I'm also wondering, though, how many games that, like, is there if we can't get this many games in, then we can't have a season? Is there an amount that they're looking at?
If you had asked me that question 2 or 3 weeks ago, I would have said yes. I think there's a sort of a point at which the season is not tenable. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think MLB right now and the players are considering every possibility. And there was one in the column that I wrote yesterday that I just sort of, like, honestly, when I was just sitting there, I dreamt up a tournament. And it was based on the fact that an official said, if something to the effect of, give us 60 days, we could put on a hell of a tournament. And I think that that's true. Is it, would it be like a championship season? No. But would it be something that could be different and compelling and still baseball? Like that right there, Dan, I think is what people in the sport are banking on at this point, that some baseball is better than no baseball. And in whatever format it takes, we're just going to embrace it.
You get one question for the commissioner and he'll answer. What would it be?
When's opening day?
Good to talk to you, Jeff. Keep that optimistic column coming.
By the way, and I'm curious to hear your take on this. Do you think the optimism is unwarranted? And do you think there's going to be baseball this year?
I don't know, Jeff. And I just spent 15 minutes starting the show where I don't like where we have these arbitrary dates where we go, hey, NBA facilities opening up May 1st. And then they come back and say, now it's May 8th. I think it's dangerous when we do this with our sports leagues because it trickles out to what we do every day. I think it gives us this false sense of, hey, things are getting better here. I don't know that. And I think when we want sports to come back, it doesn't happen magically just because we stomp our foot and say, I want my sports back. It doesn't work that way. And I thought the commissioner, Adam Silver, did the right thing a month ago when he said, I'm not going to put out any dates there. And then he comes out and puts out a date of May 1st. Now it's May 8th. I don't know if the NBA comes back. I've thought all along that it wouldn't. Baseball, I could think maybe you get now a truncated 60-game season. Yeah. College football, I think, is going to be pushed back. I think the NFL is going to be pushed back a little bit. I want to be optimistic, but I also have to be realistic, and that's really what it comes down to.
If we still have a second before break, let me come in here and tell you why I think the date thing actually has been good. Okay. I think it has shown that these leagues can be judicious. If leagues were trying to get back at all costs, they would be setting extraordinarily aggressive dates and trying to push for them. They would be bypassing public health protocols and standards. They wouldn't have a meeting today with the White House and their public health experts that they have hired. The worst thing that could possibly happen to any league is for it to come back and have it fail. And I think we have to understand that is the great emergency break here that is going to prevent them from coming back before it's time. Can they push? Can they talk about it? Can they give us hope? Can they give us optimism? Is it false? Yeah, all of those things are true. But I think when it's all said and done, the most important thing here is that the decisions are made in concert with health experts and not for poor reasons like profit. Like, if we can get to that point, that's where I, as a sports consumer and as a human being, feel good about the way that this has been handled.
I just don't like when we talk about jump-starting the economy and we use sports, because fans aren't going to be going to the games. That's how you jump-start the economy in the world of sports. If we're going to bring back sports, then bring it back. Don't bring it back while we're pushing the envelope saying, we got to jumpstart the economy here. That's dangerous. That's careless. That's reckless, in my opinion.
I think that sports can be part of it. And I think we have to, I think one thing we have to understand now, man, is just how different the new normal is going to be and how we have to adjust to these very weird states of affairs where people look at sports as something that can jumpstart the economy. I don't even know if it's jumpstart the economy so much as it is bring some semblance of normalcy back to life. And it is a hard thing for anyone to do, but sports has always been that very unifying figure in this country. And I think that's why people want to look at it, because in a time of discomfort, what is sports if not comfort?
Jeff, thank you. We'll talk soon.
Pleasure is mine, Dan. Be well, buddy.
Jeff Passan, ESPN Baseball Insider. I understand what he's saying. I just get back to just being realistic about all of this, because sports is about hope, dreams, optimistic. You want to be passionate about it. All of those things. We all want that. It just doesn't happen like that. This isn't a movie. This is a documentary. It's different. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll hear from Isaiah Thomas, Bill Laimbeer on the Apology Tour following the Bulls documentary after this.
So, guys, we're back here. It's a Tuesday. Dan, all the guys are at home. You and I talk a lot here at the studio, but I want to give everyone a chance. I want to start with Fritzy. In 15 seconds, how would you describe your day yesterday?
I had some lunch. I went for a couple of walks in the cold and rain because I wanted to get out of the house, and looked into some guests for the show and kind of laid around. Nothing too exciting.
3, 2, 1.
You nailed it. Seton, you're up.
I could do it in, 15, I think, 3 syllables. 14. Groundhog's Day.
Ooh.
Bunch of nothing?
Pretty much, yeah. I anticipate today to be just like yesterday, which was just like the day before. Kind of walked around the house, picked up some things.
8.
That's about it.
A couple naps, couple meals.
5,
Yeah.
4, 3,
That's about it.
2, 1.
Andy?
I spent a long time learning the way that they learn math now. A lot of people have been writing about this. I guess kids have a whole new system. They don't carry the one. So I learned a lot of math. That was my basic day.
Wow.
Yeah. You, Dan?
Sounds like a lot more productive use of your time than sitting around doing nothing. Maybe I should learn math.
Ladder division is out.
Wait, so what did I do after I left here?
Yeah.
I came back here to
do more
decorate, rearrange things. Yeah. That's it.
How's that?
That's actually very much your usual routine pre-pandemic.
Yes.
It was just coming back here and randomly rearranging things in the studio.
It's awesome. Awesome. I put up, I told people to put up soundproofing in the podcast room, and went in the back in the garage and cleaned out stuff, took out.
And
what was that first stand-up night like?
I started to work for Steven Starr in Philadelphia, who owns a lot of restaurants, Morimoto and Budokan, and he owned a club called Stars, and I started opening for people like Frank Stallone and Valentine, all the good Philly acts. And then when I moved to LA, I'd already done a bunch of stuff, improv, but I was green, and it kind of happened pretty quick. I was a guitar act, so I took the guitar away after about 5 years, but I was influenced by people like Martin Mull, who I loved, who I'm doing a documentary about right now with Kevin Bright producing. And Martin Mull's pretty brilliant. He's a great artist, really talented man, a painter. And so I took the guitar off, and then I started hosting the Comedy Store. Letterman was my first MC at the Comedy Store in LA.
Did you know what was in store for Letterman?
Yeah, you knew right away.
Really?
Everybody with that place at that time in 1978, it was insane. I mean, Richard Pryor would come in, they put the cape on him, he had the crown. He was the they literally did that. He was the king of the place. And Robin was there. It was before Robin got Mork and Mindy, God bless him. And
You crossed paths with Kinnison?
yeah, I got him his first spot at the Comedy Store. I met Kennison in Houston, and he had been persecuted. They wouldn't allow him to work at this club, the Comedy Works. So he strapped himself to a telephone pole, dressed as Jesus, with a diaper and a crown of thorns, and they put it on the front of the Houston Chronicle, and said that he was persecuted the same because he was a faith healer. He went out and had a tent show, and it was like the movie Leap of Faith, the play, and he did that for a living. And so then he had a lot of afterthought about it, and that's where a lot of his material came from.
Wait, he was like a televangelist?
Yes, he would bring people up out of the audience and
heal them.
And heal them. And one guy was not all there, and he was about 8 feet tall, and he had drawstring pants on, and supposedly it's going to happen, but I know how to do television, so you'll be okay.
Okay,
And so the guy hit his head on a beam, which was its 10, so it was just one of the supporting beams, broke the beam, and the guy's pants fell down, and he had no underwear. So he was just a swaying, and Sam, they bandaged him up, and they healed him. And the guy came back again, and I heard hit himself again, because I guess he marked his spot, so he wanted to just go for it again. But Sam was hilarious, and I don't know where it would fit in right now, because it's a totally different world. I mean, I'm changing my stand-up. I'm loving stand-up more now than ever. About 2 years ago, I just made a decision. There's so much anger and so much dissension, and there's so much going on that's upsetting me personally. I want to make people laugh, and so I just talk about things below my belt. Nobody gets hurt. No religion, no politics, just me. I dress left.
Oh my God!
The play of the day.
Runner left side, got it! Play it and play it!
This is the play of the day. Check this out.
And here comes the commissioner. With the first pick in the 2011 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Cam Newton, quarterback, Auburn.
That was great. How about this music? Alan, the IT guy, that's his son, Matt, gave us this beat.
On the keyboard?
Yeah, I guess. That's courtesy of ESPN. Chris Berman on the call there with the commissioner. 9 years ago today, Carolina took Cam Newton. A month before the draft, I don't think you had Cam going number 1 overall. At least I don't remember that. McLevin, do you remember if Cam was a shoe-in to be the number 1 overall pick in 2015?
Kind of a sore subject, Dan.
Oh, that's right. Didn't you have...
I had Blaine Gabbert. I'm like, it's going to be Blaine Gabbert.
Yeah.
He's represented by CAA. And then I got a note from Gil Brandt saying it's Cam Newton in like March.
Forgot.
Gil knew already.
Forgot all about that. Sorry.
Yeah,
about
no,
that.
the Mocs had a lot of other quarterbacks. Jake Locker was one. Remember that year?
That's when everybody, and I liken this to, you go into a bar at 9 o'clock at night and you're surveying the situation if you're single and you go, oh, she's pretty and she's pretty and she's pretty. That draft, it reminded me of the guy at 1 a.m. who goes, got to get somebody here to go home with me. I'll take you. And everybody went crazy. It's like, Jake Locker's off the board. Blaine Gabbert's off the board. Like it started going, wait, why has everybody got this run on quarterbacks right now? And none of those quarterbacks, they were able to stick. Yeah, Paulie.
I've got 4 different mock drafts within 2 months of the 2011 draft, and none of them had Cam Newton going number 1 to the Panthers. A lot of them had Gabbert. Some of them had Cam Newton dropping to the Titans around 7th or 8th pick, which I think was Locker, correct?
Locker went to Tennessee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
7th
I
or
think
8th.
it was 10th pick.
10th, maybe, yeah.
Maybe, or that was his number.
Now, I can't find a mock draft with Cam Newton number 1 unless you're talking about a week before the draft.
Yes, McLovin.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I think Andy Dalton and Kaepernick went in the second round that year and hit big, and Ponder failed. Like the second round,
Yeah.
I might have the years wrong, but the second round was really good that year too.
Check and see. I love Dalton coming out of college, but only because of, was it the Rose Bowl appearance when he faced Wisconsin, and he actually was outsmarting Wisconsin's defense there, and I go, that guy looks like he's really good, and I remember going, I like Dalton, I think, more than any of the other quarterbacks in that draft. Yeah, Paul or McLevin.
Yeah, I remember that because you were so excited to watch J.J. Watt dominate.
Yes.
You talked about that. It's like, this could be the J.J. Watt game. And they were like, they avoided him.
They were running it felt like they were running at J.J. Watt because that's the best way to go after a guy who has, great ability to pursue a play. You go at him so he can't, run after you. And I thought, I came in after that game and I go, Andy Dalton was great. And I thought, man, and then you start to see, well, he's not a first-round draft pick. And I thought, golly, the Bengals got a great draft pick here. They got Andy Dalton. I was right there with you with my man crush on Andy Dalton. Fritzy's got his scoreboard, by the way. Every day he does this. The numbers are 67 and 1. We need some hints here. By the way, play of the day brought to you by LegalZoom, making it easy to set up the right estate plan without leaving your home. Take care of your family today. The right estate plan at LegalZoom.com. All right, Todd, hint, just a hint.
For 67 and 1, the clue is taken away and taking flight. Taken away and taking flight.
All right. Taken away. Taken away or
taken?
Taken away.
Taken away. As if something was taken away.
This like Liam Neeson?
Not quite like Liam Neeson. I will find you, I will hunt you down, and I will kill you. This is taken away.
Taken
and
away.
Both of these are this date in histories, if
Okay.
that's
All right.
helpful.
I have one. Now, you've already told people that you're basing this off of this day in sports history.
Not always, but today that's one of the hints. Because you said it's been getting too hard. I'm trying to.
Well, no,
help the
I'm
process.
okay with it as long as it's something that you can figure out and you're fair to people.
I think this one is very reasonable.
All right, I already have one of them.
You do?
Yeah. The other one, taken away.
That's a little trickier.
But I haven't seen this day in sports history, and if I saw this day in sports history, I'd probably
which
get
would
that.
be cheating, but I guess you kind of have to. No one knows off the top of their head everything that happened.
Wait, how's
on
it
this day in
cheating?
history.
If you're somebody who's watching or listening, you just say this day in sports history, and you pull
Google
it out.
it.
Yeah,
I guess you can do that. But it would be really amazing if you're able to, off the top of your head, know
that's not how this works.
April 28th.
That's not
what
how-
taken away means.
Taken away.
It's a good thing that we don't do the This Day in Sports History show before this one, because then that would
Yeah,
that segment we do at the end of the show.
very
but
end.
this Day in Sports History segment
different.
we
Yeah.
do first.
Yeah. When Paulie
Totally
does
different
it,
thing.
the final segment of the show, this day in sports history. Yes, Paul.
Right.
Yeah, 9 years ago when I started This Day in Sports History, I knew someday Todd would do the scoreboard thing and do it earlier in the show, so I better do it later.
Okay.
He's very bright like that. He knew what was coming.
McLevin, did you settle on a poll question? You got
Yeah, I
the
put up-
results from the first hour.
Yeah, who should sign Cam Newton? The Patriots are the runaway winner with the Jaguars being second.
Yeah, I get that. If I'm Jacksonville, I'm looking at already tanking. Do I want Cam Newton in there? And I would say no. Now, he can help you this year because maybe he could beat out Gardner Minshew, but this is all about next year with Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, McLevin.
Same question for the Patriots. How do we know they're not tanking?
I don't think Belichick does that. I just don't, especially after what just happened this offseason, that the Patriots aren't tanking. That's just not in Bill's DNA. He's got too much pride where, he's not going to go out there and go, hey, I don't have a good product out. Because it's reflective of him because he's your GM and your coach. It's not like where you go, hey, you left me with nothing here. Doug Marrone in Jacksonville is going, we don't have anything here. Hey, shut up, Doug. We'll have something next year for you. Yeah, Fritzy.
He won't slip up in a press conference and say, we're on to Trevor Lawrence. I mean the Caught me.
That's +1 for Fritzy today. +1. All right, coming up, Bob Saget's going to stop by. We'll hear from Bill Laimbeer and Isaiah Thomas as well. 1 hour in the books, Dan Patrick Show. So Will Ferrell, who lived at home until he was 24, is that right?
Easy.
No.
No.
Is it factually true?
No, that's true.
Okay, what was it like to be? So you graduated from college and you're living at home.
Right.
You had your bedroom.
Right.
What was in your bedroom?
What was in my bedroom? I think it was pretty sad. I don't think there were any posters on the wall because, are you going to put posters up when you're
well, you're still you're 24. I mean, you're back
know.
home, so what's more embarrassing? You have posters up, or you're living at home.
Yeah, but I think still having posters up on the wall. Anyway, they were just blank walls.
Wow. It's sad.
And maybe an IKEA bookcase. Empty, no books. And yeah, that's about it. We're working as a bank teller.
How good were you as a bank teller?
Trying to do stand-up comedy.
How good were you as a bank teller?
First couple days were disastrous.
Did you end up
but
short?
I feel we might have talked about this before. Have we talked about? Yeah, I was first day. I was I think $300 short, and the manager came over and she said, "Huh, that's weird. You know what? Don't worry. Joe over here was 300 over. So you guys must have." You probably traded money at some point. I just went, yeah, we probably did. I was like, I didn't talk to Joe all day. And then day 2, I balanced out my drawer and I was this odd number. I was like 287 and 93 cents short. She's like, what's going on? I'm like, I have no idea. I really don't. But then from that point on, clear sailing.
Yeah. You killed it.
Guys, if you check your email, I was watching SVP this morning, and he was showing a Michael Jordan playoff highlight where I think he scored 50-something, whatever.
55.
55, the double nickel, as they say. And, Dan, they showed your highlight, you and KO, mid-97 doing the highlights.
Yeah.
And you dropped both, I think, in Fuego.
Yeah.
And
nothing but the bottom of the net.
Nothing.
Yeah.
What'd you notice there?
I looked pretty good in 97. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the key. I sounded good, which is also important. But yeah, I might have been eye candy back then. I'm not going to joke around.
And Keith?
He looked good. He looked Keith. He looked Keithian.
Not good.
Good. No, Keith looked like Keith.
What did you guys think of the picture?
I loved it. I love that stuff. The old school stuff and the hair and
I know.
looking sexy. What else can you want? Mid-90s.
Yeah.
Broncos Super Bowl, Bulls rocking it.
The only thing I could really focus on in the picture, which I guess we have to show, but it looks like one of the basketballs next to the doorway. The Spalding is turned a little further south than it should.
No. Why'd you bring that up? Seton.
Can't do that.
Dan just leapt from his desk.
Obsessive compulsive.
The one that's just above the black ball. That Spalding, it's a little further pointed down than it should.
I'm going to describe what just happened. Dan just went to all the basketballs and adjusted them, even though they're almost all perfectly straight.
It's not good. Not a good start.
Oh, man. You got to do something to amuse yourself.
Mm-hmm. Now I got to deal with it.
That's all I'm pulling out of reeling back in.
Yeah. Sorry. Andrew, at least that's not your fault. And we know this. You didn't
Oh,
do that.
don't bring up that day that I screwed up the basketball rack.
That's not your fault, buddy. You're good.
There it is.
Buckle up, boys. Time to go to work.
Welcome to the Dan Patrick Show.
Immediate dividends.
Bringing you the biggest guests and best interviews.
Mike Renner, Pro Football Focus lead draft analyst. What should the Chargers have done?
They should have moved up. Quite frankly, I thought going in that was their plan. They were going to move up to get Tua Tagovailoa. They need to sell tickets. Tua is a guy that moves the needle personality-wise, with what he's done and the stats he had at Alabama. I think he's a much, much better quarterback prospect. Crazy to me that they didn't and stuck and got Herbert.
Talking to Reggie Miller, the Hall of Famer. Do you think that Michael single-handedly said, I don't want Isaiah on the Dream Team?
Yes. I wouldn't say for a fact, but I think MJ probably said, okay, I'll do it, but Isaiah cannot be on this team.
Broadcasting from the Mercedes Man Cave, this is the Dan Patrick Show.
Hour 2 on this Tuesday, Dan and the Danettes, Dan Patrick Show. Glad to have you on board. Stay a while if you can. I'm here in the Man Cave with Paulie. Seaton's at home, McLovin at home, and Fritzy at their respective homes. We have the opportunity for you to listen. You can email, tweet, dial us up, and you can watch on youtube.com/The Dan Patrick Show. Got a poll question. Not sure if we're going to change it or not. It has to do with Cam Newton. It was on this day 9 years ago when he was taken number 1 overall by the Carolina Panthers, and right now on the outside looking in, waiting for a team to dial him up. Yes, McLovin.
Okay, which team should sign Cam Newton? The Patriots run away, number 1. The Jaguars, 2. Then the Steelers, 3.
Okay. Well, I understand the Steelers. I don't know about Ben. And Ben has been a little frosty when they took Mason Rudolph a couple of years ago. They've drafted quarterbacks, but you bring in Cam, Ben coming off that injury, Ben at 38 years of age, 37 years of age. We're starting to get towards the end with Ben Roethlisberger. I just don't know how he would process that if you're going to bring him in. Yeah, McLovin.
There's another team on that Vegas list, the Broncos, which brings up the other question. Do you trust Drew Lock now that they have a couple more weapons?
I'm going to give him another year. I'm going to give him this year coming up because you went out and got all of these resources for him. You got all these wide receivers, and they like the athleticism. They like his arm. It comes down to processing the game. They all have talent. You wouldn't get this far. People make this argument all the time when they hear me on my steroid rant. Steroids don't help you hit the baseball. No, you get to the major leagues, you've already learned how to hit a baseball. Steroids help you hit a baseball further. You got a big arm? Great. Are you able to process? I don't know Drew Lock. We saw him at Missouri. It looked like he had a lot of talent, but I don't know if he's a great quarterback. But I'm going to give him another year here. And it feels like you're giving these quarterbacks 2 years on the job, maybe 3. And then after that, the Bears know what they're doing. They're moving on from Mitchell Trubisky. And we're going to find out about Baker Mayfield. Was the first year the anomaly or was the second year the anomaly? You have Watson is obviously a franchise guy. Mahomes is a franchise guy. Gardner Minshew, you give him another year, and then that's it. If he doesn't have, produce great results, then you move on from him. That just feels like that's the new time frame for these quarterbacks. Daniel Jones, pretty good rookie year. Now we're going to see what he does in the second year. Sam Darnold, you're not quite sure with the Jets. Are you going to get to a point like you did with Marcus Mariota where you're going, we're not getting the production we thought we were going to get out of Sam Darnold? You're probably going to be looking at this year as one of those make or break years for Sam Darnold. Jameis Winston, they ran out the clock on Jameis. They ran out the clock on Marcus Mariota. You can run down the list with these quarterbacks. You don't get a long period of time. The grace period is so different than what it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. 877-3DP-SHOW, email address dp@danpatrick.com. Spend some time with Jeff Passan, the ESPN Baseball Insider. He's optimistic we're going to have baseball this year. I'm not as optimistic, but I'm being realistic, and I think that if there is a baseball season, it's going to be obviously an abbreviated, it might be as many as 60 games. It may be something that, the playoff format could be different. Everything is on the table in all of these leagues. It's what gets leaked out. Go back to what I said a month ago, 12-game schedule for the NFL. You're going, wait, that's going to be in the fall. NFL should be fine. They're working on a 12-game schedule right now. They're working on the Super Bowl at the end of February. They're working on taking out the bye weeks here. Everything is on the table. College football, I believe, is going to be delayed. I don't have any inside information other than I'm just approaching this and being realistic, level-headed and saying, I just don't see it happening right now. And if it does, fans aren't going to be back. Are students going to be back? I'm preparing for my daughter going into her senior year in college to be at home for the first semester. That's the feeling my wife and I are getting, that let's prepare for that. So, the NBA was talking about opening up facilities on May 1st. Now they pushed it back to May 8th. I'm going to guess they'll probably push it back again. You can't be closer than 12 feet apart on the basketball floor. You can only have 4 people in the facility. It's not, hey, the NBA is coming back. You're dipping your toe in the water. That's it. And, we're going to have movement with golf, and then I think you're going to have other sports, WWE and UFC. They're going to be coming back as well. But I don't know if you're going to have the major sports back anytime soon. Is baseball coming back? Can they do it? Can they quarantine? Can you do it in Florida and Arizona? They're thinking about all of these possibilities. Everything is on the table. That's what people should understand. And I like that they're forward thinking, but you got to be careful. You got to be careful where you look at this and go, boy, it seems like we're getting back to normal here. We're not. France's prime minister just announced that sporting events in the country are until September. There will be no sporting events until September right now. Yeah, I mean, that's even an optimistic time frame there with just September. I want to be optimistic. I hope we get sports back, but I just, given everything, and doctors are talking about this, so it's not just a talking head like me. The doctors are saying that they're not optimistic on fans being able to go to sporting events until 2021. They're not even optimistic the Olympics next July that have already been postponed. Not even optimistic about that. Because just do the math. Getting fans to go into one city, all of these athletes, all of these fans, without a vaccine, and they're not looking at having a vaccine for 12 to 18 months. I don't know how safe you're going to feel going to a sporting event, but you can imagine a lot of people are going to be very, very cautious. There's going to be trepidation of going to a sporting event here. Even though you may not have it, you may be asymptomatic, you may take all the precautions. You're only as safe as the people around you. All right, got our poll question. We going to stay with that, McLovin, or are you going to change it?
Paulie had an interesting question. If we had told you a year ago that these players were likely not going to the Hall of Fame, which one would you not believe the most? Cam Newton, Andrew Luck, or Antonio Brown?
I guess I would say Andrew Luck because they'd fixed the offensive line, and it felt like we were seeing the true Andrew Luck. But at quarterbacking, you have to put up either really big numbers or win Super Bowls. And maybe Luck would have won a Super Bowl or two, maybe. But I don't know if he'd be putting up monster numbers there because of the injuries. Antonio Brown may still get into the Hall of Fame. Cam needs probably 3 more really good years to make it. He was an MVP, got to a Super Bowl, but I would say Andrew Luck because we had high hopes when you're the number 1 pick overall, and they finally got some protection for him. I want to get to this. Isaiah Thomas was making the rounds yesterday. Also, his former teammate Bill Laimbeer. They were on the Detroit Pistons, the bad boy teams. And, of course, the documentary on the Bulls, it feels like you got to have a villain for each episode. You had Jerry Krause, little bit of Scottie Pippen, and now your villain or villains are the bad boys. And you get to hear from them. Isaiah Thomas gets to have his rebuttal to Michael Jordan with what he had to say about Isaiah Thomas, and they didn't shake the Bulls' hands. Isaiah Thomas said, hey, the Celtics did that to us. Now, I just saw this article. An ex-Celtics staffer refutes Isaiah's claim in The Last Dance about the 1988 team walking off in the playoffs. So this happened with the Pistons and Bulls in 1991, Eastern Conference Finals. The Pistons left the court without congratulating the Bulls. They got swept 4 games. So if you're the Pistons, you're upset that you got embarrassed. You got swept 4 games by the Bulls. So Mike goes to the NBA Finals for the first time. Now, they talk about this. Isaiah says that his explanation was the Celtics did it first to them. John Jennings, a former Boston staff member, said on Monday, what Isaiah said simply isn't true. I was sitting behind head coach Casey Jones, and I'm trying to think if there was anything. I think it was to get off the floor. One of the scariest experiences of my life was after that game ended, Jennings said. I was literally behind Casey Jones, and we were trying to make our way to the locker room. You had all these people. It was a domed stadium, massive crowd. They were coming onto the floor, excited, jumping up and down. It was crazy, absolutely pandemonium. They finally beat us, so you get it. Nothing against Detroit fans, but I've never forgotten that feeling of trying to make our way to the locker room. All I know is Kevin McHale, who struck up, I believe, a friendship with Isaiah. You can see them leaving the court at the same time. And I believe Isaiah had talked to Kevin privately about, hey, we got to get over the hump. How do we get over the hump? Asking Kevin McHale, the team they couldn't beat, how to beat the Boston Celtics. So Isaiah said, hey, the Celtics did that to us as well. Keep this in mind. I was there when Magic hits the jump, that running hook in the Garden to beat the Celtics. When the Lakers won the NBA Finals in the Boston Garden, is anybody here going to say, I never saw the Celtics shake their hands? Or when the Celtics won and a team is running off the floor at the Boston Garden, did anybody say anything about that? I mean, it's kind of silly. I mean, it's sportsmanship, but okay. Isaiah was on Get Up on ESPN yesterday, and he had this to say about not making the dream team because Reggie Miller yesterday said, hey, you know what? Mike didn't want him on the dream team, plain and simple. Also understand this. Isaiah and the Pistons beat up Michael Jordan. They literally beat him up on the floor. They were known as the bad boys, and they lived up to that reputation. And then during the All-Star game, Isaiah told players on the Eastern Conference All-Star team to freeze out Michael Jordan. Don't pass the ball to Mike. You can understand there's a little bit of backstory here with Michael Jordan. And Jordan doesn't forget. He doesn't forgive. He doesn't forget. Here's Isaiah on being disappointed about not making the dream team.
Looking back, if I'm not a part of the dream team because a lapse in emotion in terms of not shaking someone's hand, if that's the reason why I didn't make the dream team, then I am more disappointed today than I was back then when I wasn't selected.
Isaiah's got to take some inventory here, man. He does. I know he's on TV, got a great smile, great basketball player, but you got to take some inventory here. Right? Got to understand who you were as a player, who your team was when you were playing. It's different. And you can't do this to Jordan. You can't. And you can't come back and say, oh, I'm really disappointed that, that we're being labeled these bad guys and, we didn't shake their hands and all. Own it. You owned your style, then own it now. I would be shouting from the mountaintops. Hell no, I didn't want to shake his hand. If I'm the Pistons, don't give me this apology tour. I would go about it the way Bill Laimbeer did. He was on The Jump yesterday on ESPN, and this is what Laimbeer had to say.
Well, we weren't bad people. We were just basketball players winning. And that kind of stuck with me because they didn't know who we were or what we were about as individuals in our family life. So all that whining they did, why shake their hand? They were just whiners. They won the series. Give them credit. We got old. They got past us, but okay, move on.
That's what you do. That's what you do, not this apology tour. Isaiah goes, well, if I, knew what I know now, then I would have apologized. No, you wouldn't have apologized. You know what? You got beat. You got embarrassed. You don't want to shake their hands? Fine. Back then it was okay. I don't need revisionist history here. Mike could be an ass back then. He could be brutal on his own teammates and the opposition. But Mike, you own it. You own it. That's who you were. That's what made you great. And the Pistons, own it. Be like Lane Beer. No, they were whiners. We didn't want to shake their hands. Yes, that's the way to go about it there. And Michael can hold a grudge. Yes. And Mike didn't want him on the dream team. Yes. Isaiah froze out Mike on the All-Star team. Hey, don't throw the ball to him. Mike didn't start it. Mike finished it. And the other part of this that I found fascinating, it's being reported now that Jordan finally decided to do the documentary. All of this footage that I saw NBA Entertainment cameramen shooting in that final season, and I kept wondering, what are they using that for? And I remember that talking to somebody, because I did work with NBA Entertainment back then. I said, "What are you going to do with that? Is there going to be, that season-ending video on the Bulls?" And I was told, no, that's video that won't see the light of day unless Michael approves it. And I laughed because I thought, wait a minute, really? Like Mike's going to be the one who decides? And I went, wow, is he powerful? They had a contract. Mike would allow it, but he would allow you to film it, but he wouldn't allow you to air it until he decided. Let's fast forward here to Michael being approached about the documentary, because he had been approached and they kept saying, hey, we still have that footage. Didn't want to do it. Is it just a coincidence that Michael Jordan decided to do this documentary on the day the Cleveland Cavaliers, led by LeBron James, won the championship? Mike decided that day. That day. It's not a coincidence, folks. That's Michael Jordan. All that is a tap on the shoulder to say, oh, I got to remind a whole new generation of just how great I was. Because now you started to get a little bit of this, hey, LeBron, he won a title in Cleveland. Okay. This is just a reminder. This isn't a documentary. It's not. This is a reminder of Michael saying to everybody in the basketball world, hey, if you didn't see it, now you get a chance. This is what it was all about. This is who we were. This is how great I was. This is the dominance that we had. We scared everybody. People loved coming out to watch us play. We were rock stars. We were the Beatles. Look at what I created. This is about Jordan. And Michael had control over the documentary. You can't call it a documentary if Mike had control over everything. If his company is executive producers, it's not a documentary. Now, there are parts of it that feel like a documentary, but if Michael is deciding who gets interviewed and the final say-so with it feels like Mike always got the final word in the first 4 episodes. He always gets the ball last with the game on the line. This is what Michael does. But this is what has been reported, that Mike told the producers, let's do it, after watching LeBron James celebrate a championship in Cleveland. I don't know if LeBron wins another title in LA, that Michael has more footage to put out next year or the year after, just to remind people that, hey, LeBron's got 4 now. Just want to let you know I have 6. But this is about Michael Jordan. He's the ultimate competitor. Still competing. Give him a chance, he'll compete. And I think that's what this is. But if I'm the Pistons, stop apologizing. All right? You created an image. It's an image, an indelible image. What you meant to the game. You don't have to apologize for anything. And you know what? Jordan sure as hell ain't apologizing. He ain't apologizing for keeping you off the dream team. Are you apologizing because you froze him out at the All-Star game? That's what Isaiah needs to talk about, too. Did you freeze him out? And if you did, you can understand why Mike didn't want you on the dream team. We'll take a break. We'll lighten the mood a little bit. Bob Saget, the great comedian. He worked with Richard Pryor. He was around Eddie Murphy, Sam Kinison, all of these great comedians. Because he hosted, when they would come on, I don't know if it was this Comedy Store, but when he was younger, he would be the host. So he'd get like a minute here to have a joke or two and say, and let's bring in Robin Williams. I want to ask him about all these great comedians that he came in contact with. Yes, Paulie?
You ever see him when he did about 6 or 7 episodes of Entourage, Bob Saget?
Oh, I thought that was the true Bob Saget.
He's hysterical, and he's dark.
Oh, my God. Isn't he in that, isn't there that, it's not a documentary, but it has all these comedians where they tell the same joke, but they add something to it. Sarah Silverman, like it is downright XXX. It is nasty. But they all have their own interpretation of how to tell this joke, and it's pretty interesting. 20 after the hour, we'll take a break. CJ McCollum from the Blazers will join us next hour. We'll ask him about this whole time frame, and is he watching the Jordan documentary? 21 after the hour, this is the Dan Patrick Show. Check things all the time, like your email, your Instagram. Check something important, your credit. Discover makes it quick and easy. Best of all, it's free. Discover's offering FICO credit scores, the score used by 90% of top lenders, and they're doing it for free, even if you're not a customer. Checking your score won't hurt your credit, and you can check each month for changes. The Discover Credit Scorecard is free for everyone. Learn more at discover.com/credit scorecard. That's discover.com/credit scorecard. Limitations do apply. Did you ever have problems with Lane Beer?
Oh, yeah. Personally, no. The Pacers, yes, because we were in that black and blue division, the same division as the Bad Boys. I don't know how much time I have left, but the best story ever, my rookie year, Steve Stepanovich and Bill Laimbeer. It was welcome to the NBA Rook moment. Steve Stepanovich, who was a tough Missouri 7-foot center, I mean, no nonsense. Could have went down before the knee injury. Could have been a great center. Jump ball. I mean, I guess he and Laimbeer had problems before. They go out for jump ball. As soon as the jump ball goes up, Steve Stepanovich slaps Bill Laimbeer. I mean, full on slaps. And the official stops, calls a technical on Steve-O, doesn't throw him out. You see the redness on Laimbeer's cheek and like one Denzel Washington tear coming down. And I'm looking around the bench like, what in the hell have I gotten myself? What is going on here? And it was just a history between those two. And they got him back. They got Steve-O back. But I was just like, my jaw was on the ground watching. I mean, this is jump ball. As soon as the ball goes up, you just hear the hugest slap. I'm like, he just slapped Bill Laimbeer. He just slapped Bill Laimbeer. It was the craziest thing. I was like, Dr. Jack Ramsey, are you sure you want to put me in this game? My legs were shaking walking out there. Oh, my God. It was great. It was great.
But do these kids want to know about Jordan? Are they curious about any of these legends of the game that you played against? Now you brought up Stockton.
Yeah, they are. It's the young men. They are interested in some of the star players. When you talk about Stockton or Jordan, we talk about the old rules of not the new rules, but the old rules of like when you had to go meet Jordan at the rim because you couldn't play zone. And, the game has changed in that way where now you can, play zone. But the players, a lot more players got dunked on. A lot more players got isolated. You were on an island. You didn't have help. And you had to figure out how to stop those great players.
You got a Jordan?
You got
a Jordan story?
It came up short.
You got a Jordan story?
Jordan story? Probably my rookie year, I actually told this story to Chris Middleton. My rookie year, I'm guarding him, and I can just, my heart's about to come out of my chest, and I'm just praying that he just shoots a fadeaway jump shot. But he decided to go baseline, and when he went to jump, all I could think about, this cannot be a highlight. And he just did like a little reverse layup. And as he came down and started running back, he just looked back and winked at me. And I thought, oh man, this could be a long night.
RockAuto.com. Rock on. Love these people. RockAuto.com. Family business founded by automotive engineers in 1999. Two goals in mind. They want to give you direct access to all the parts information hidden in the computers, catalogs behind the parts store counter. Second, they want to make the parts affordable. They have reliably low prices. Go to RockAuto.com. You choose the part brands, the prices, features you want anytime. They're there for you 24/7. RockAuto.com even has parts you were probably told dealer only are no longer available. Parts delivered right to your home or office. Don't waste time and money hunting for the parts, phoning, driving, waiting in lines. And tell them we sent you. All the parts your car or truck will ever need at RockAuto.com. The Danette said you got to lighten the mood a little bit. You're kind of serious today. I went, all right, we will. Got Bob Saget set to join us here. Is he with us, Paulie?
He is ready to go from his home.
Whoa.
We got video.
Okay. Oh, look at that. We got Bob Saget on Zoom. You can watch on youtube.com/The Dan Patrick Show. What kind of stuff do you have in your man cave there, Bob?
My wife, couple of jewels, nice TVs. I got some cool memorabilia, like important stuff from, Richard Pryor and Rodney, some Chaplin stuff. I collect some things, but pretty much just human life, pretty much.
Is it in your room right now? Like behind you? Do you have this?
No, behind me I've got like Dodger baseball bobbleheads. It's pathetic.
What do you have from Richard Pryor?
I've got a bunch of stuff. A picture of Richard signed for me, and I was in a movie with him called Critical Condition. So Richard and I had a closeness. It was I loved him a lot.
How intimidating was Pryor back then?
Well, I was at the Comedy Store for like 8 years, so I was just there as an MC trying to get a job. I would do little gigs here and there, and so I would be on stage, and I'd bring Robin Williams up, and then rest his soul, whatever the hell you say, because he shouldn't be dead, and then I'd bring Richard up. And then Sam Kinison would go on. It was insane. It was. It's popular again. Well, it's not popular now. You can't go anywhere. But Richard was pretty astonishing. It was.
But who got up there and killed where you go? I can't do this. This is out of my league.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, no one now.
Of course.
Well, we all know how to kill. At a certain point, we can all set it on stun. If you've been I've been doing it 43 years. So during that time, I bombed, off and on for a decade. And you have to do that to get good, pretty much. But the person I was most impressed with was Eddie Murphy. He was working out Raw, and I brought him on stage one week. And unbelievable standing ovation at the top. The walls are shaking, and then he did great. And then at the end, I hate all the euphemisms that they give you. He killed, he crushed, he
Yeah.
smashed, he wrecked it. I crushed that. You don't want to hear that when it comes to another person of the opposite sex or the same sex or just some unsuspecting, traffic officer.
Back to Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, thank you. God bless you. So he came in one week, did the set. He was in a blue leather suit. It was on a Friday night, did about 50 minutes. And then one Friday later, this is right before he was shooting Raw, like 2 weeks before he shot Raw. He was wearing an all red leather suit, came in, the room rumbled, the walls are shaking. And then at the set just built. He literally was so good that, and I understood what he was doing. He fixed everything that he was doing. He fixed it. He understood it more. He told it. He elongated it because he told it more as a person would tell it. Like Richard, that's kind of the role model for how you tell the story. You embellish it, and he wasn't working on it at that point. He was refining it, and literally, it was the biggest reaction I'd ever seen to anyone, except for one set I had in Central Florida. But it was amazing. I mean, literally the walls shook, and it was the main room, which is like a 400-seat room, which used to be Ciro's. So
Yeah.
it was astonishing. I mean, and Robin always would kill, but sometimes the best people like Richard would just take chances. And Chappelle does that. Bill Burr, they go on stage, and you don't know where the valleys are. They're not going up. Once in a while, it feels good to go up and go, I feel like killing tonight. I'm gonna just not try anything that new. Or if I try something new, it's gonna be in the middle and I'm gonna be all amped up. Kind of like an athlete that goes, okay, you don't know when you're in the zone, but if you feel that you're in the zone, then you can do no wrong.
What would Kinnison be like nowadays?
I think he'd be where he is right now.
What, dead?
Not a lot. He was actually clean and sober when he was hit by that car. And I loved him. I got him I'm 100 years old. I got him his first spot at the Comedy Store. I also introduced him to Rodney Dangerfield, and then Rodney put him in back to school. And then I was in the Young Comedian special with Sam that kind of discovered him. And then all Rodney did all the time, and he was a friend of mine, Rodney, and he would go, man, that's Sam. He's unbelievable. I went, I'm pretty good, Rodney. Man, Sam, Sam. And then Ron Jeremy would come over, and I'm like, Sam, Ron Jeremy, you guys have fun. Have a good night. I'm gonna go home and be a Jewish husband.
So you did? Oh, you were married at the time.
Yeah. When I got divorced, I would then I would take Rodney out to dinner, and at one time I didn't call to confirm, and Ron Jeremy was coming up with two hookers to sign a release that Rodney wanted him to sign so he could put in his book, and they were going to get stoned and just hang out. And then I said, Rodney, we had dinner at 7. He said, you didn't call to confirm, man. You didn't call. And he's wearing a robe, but he's got no underwear on. And it's like he's got a janitor's set of keys hanging out of it, basically. He's naked.
I don't think you need
naked.
to say hanging out with Jeremy in the same sentence.
I wasn't there. And Ron Jeremy's a big fan of comedy. So I was doing a benefit for my Scleroderma Research Foundation. It's not mine. It's everybody's. And that's a disease my sister died from. And so Ron Jeremy, he was at the Vegas event and really wanted me to sign my book to him. And he wanted to get in the backstage, and I didn't know that. And he blocked the door with his unit, with his incredibly
No, we got it. No, we got it. We got it.
Yeah, right.
No, I got it.
So I signed it. And then I shook his hand. That ain't happening now.
You signed the book.
No, I signed his unit.
Okay.
And, I had 4 Sharpies.
In case you ran out of ink.
I did run out of ink.
He's Bob Saget. He's got a podcast. It's called Bob Saget's Here for You. Who do you want to interview? If I said, pick anybody, and you got him for an hour.
Well, I'm doing it. Besides you?
Yeah.
I'm doing it. I've been doing some monologues by myself where I'm just trying to figure out what the hell's going on and trying to give people a little bit of comfort. And I plan to do this thing before all of this happened. So I went and did 2 episodes where we were able to put it on tape, and it's on the YouTube site that bears my name. But basically, my first guest was John Stamos, because that's a prerequisite. And coming up now I've got 3 shows that came out this week. The first 2 weeks I did 3 episodes. Then I go to Monday, Thursday, and I've John Stamos, Tiffany Haddish, Bill Burr, Howie Mandel, Macaulay Culkin, John Mayer, got Seth Green coming up, Jim Gaffigan. So it's people that I love that I've known a long time, because we all came up together. So I'll pretty much try to get all my friends.
But
can
you
it's
ask
helpful,
Macaulay to tap into Home? I can't imagine he wants to revisit Home Alone.
We did it. I recorded it last week, and I think it's on. I think it's on Friday. I think it's on this week. I'm not sure about the scheduling all the time, because it's done, very high end in a secret lab by
Of course.
4 genius 25-year-olds. It's like, I didn't even realize it. It's like, who runs Apple? Okay, you're on Apple Podcasts. Okay, who runs that? And it's like 5 genius 25-year-olds. So I'm like, okay, cool. They know what they're doing, damn it. And
could be your next wife.
No. It's mostly dudes. It's a couple of ladies. Oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. My engineer is this brilliant lady named Annalise, and I can't believe what she does, because I'm uploading her. That sounds wrong. My wife's in the house. I'm not uploading her, honey. She's not downloading.
You're not
me.
downloading either.
No downloading, no uploading.
Did you?
I got a good pin though. My pin's fast.
When you did Full House, weren't you a sports anchor?
Well, at first, yes, and they found out I didn't know a lot, so they decided to switch me over to a morning talk show host, which I ended up doing.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I did that before I did Full House, but yeah, I was a big, Golden State Warriors and.
But do you know anything about sports?
Little bit. I mean, you run, you score. I mean, I did a TV movie once where I was playing basketball with my son. And I can shoot, sometimes.
You're a tall guy.
That's the thing. But every time I would jump to make a layup, my feet would come up in the back and kick myself in the ass. So there was a Russian basketball player. Was it Popov or something, or what was his name?
Belov.
Famous. I don't know.
Alexander Belov.
Was that the guy that would kick himself in the butt with his feet when he made a layup?
I'm going to just say yes.
All right, so you won.
Yeah.
I've got this for you. This is from Don Rickles' 80th birthday.
All right.
Yeah, all right.
I mean, the prior stuff would have been better.
Let me give you something more valuable. There you go.
I like Purell. Yeah, very valuable. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm able to fake it. I didn't have a double, but I wasn't the guy chosen on the teams.
Did you talk women with John Mayer or watches? Because he's a big watch guy. I don't know. Is he a bigger watch guy or women guy?
Well, it's the same thing, because you want to get your hand on the face. And
okay. All right. Well done.
All right. Whatever.
All right. I got you.
Your little hands on your big. My big hand's on my little hand. But what happened was, no, we've been friends a long time, and it was about 90 minutes. My good interviews have been like 90 minutes long. Stamos was 90 minutes. Ironically, it was exactly the same as the Mayer interview. No, it wasn't. 'Cause Mayer's interview, we didn't really talk women because we know each other, so we're friends. So we didn't need to do that, because it was like when your friend, when you have a friend on, if we were buddies all the time, you wouldn't ask me the same questions,
Yeah, but you got to be asking questions, though, Bob, for your audience, not for you.
Well, it's weird, because a lot of people, like Bill Burr, just Tai Chi'd me. He's like, don't ask questions. This is a conversation. This is a podcast. And then he told me what my stand-up is. He said, you know what your stand-up is, Bob? And so he grills me for like 25 minutes. He beats the living hell out of me. He says, your stand-up is nothing more than the lines they couldn't use on Full House, and then you just drop F-bombs around it. He said, that's all your stand-up is. And so after about half an hour of getting pummeled by Bill Burr, who is one of the funniest people on the earth.
Is Bob Saget. He's here for you in more ways than one. Bob, it's always great to talk to you. And
I always enjoy talking to you. I just wish you a lot of health. You got a nice place. You got nice digs there. The show's done you well. All the other guys are living in poverty. I can see it right now.
Thank you, Bob.
You're a good man. Thank you so much. Be well.
That's Bob Saget. Bob Saget's Here For You podcast. It's available on iTunes and Amazon, and always good to catch up with him. I never watched Full House or Fuller House.
So you only know his dark and racy comedy side.
Yes, I do. Well, I would see Full House. I just never stopped long enough to experience it. And then the Olsen twins, John Stamos, Dave Coulier, I just wasn't interested in Full House or Fuller House either. Maybe a little bit more Fuller House when who's the one woman whose daughters were trying to get into USC?
Oh.
Is that Aunt Betty or something like that? Any of you guys know what her name
Lori
is?
Locke. Lori's character.
Yeah, Lori Locke. And what's her character's name?
Aunt Betty.
Aunt Betty? I don't know. That's now I might watch, but other than that, I had no interest in watching that. All right, we'll take a break here. We'll come back. Phone calls are welcome, and I believe we're going to have to update that. Change the poll question, aren't we, McLovin, with Cam Newton?
Yeah, let's go with that. Who would you be most shocked not making the Hall of Fame? Antonio Brown, Cam Newton, or Andrew Luck?
Oh, all right. We're back after this in the Dan Patrick Show. Was there any bad blood between us when we did that ESPN commercial 15 years ago? Like you told me to hit you in the back with the folding chair twice, and I had a couple of takes, and I hit you as hard as I possibly could.
No bad blood.
We're good.
Absolutely. Remember, I told you, I said, hey, man, you got to lay it in because it's got to look good, because if you hit me easy and soft, it's going to kill the whole thing. So you had to lay it in.
And then you also said, hit me twice. It'll be a bet. Like you're the one that said to the guys who were making the ESPN promo, it'll be funnier if I ask him to hit me again.
Yeah, can I get one more of those? And I remember, and it's funny because it was really one of the first sets I'd been on, and I guess I didn't know protocol. And so you kind of want that to be the director's idea. Yeah. So when I ran it by him, and it's kind of maybe offended him a little bit. And then all of a sudden, when it became his idea, he was cool with it, and then you therefore hit me twice.
Can we play that? And if you listen to the audio, you're going to be able to hear. Hopefully, we're able to play this, and there's audio attached to this. Hey, Stone Cold, what are you doing up so late?
Hey, Dan. Just studying. I'm fading pretty fast.
I know just the thing.
Can I get one more of those?
Sure.
Thanks, buddy. That helps.
Don't work too hard, man. You were great. Your comedic timing is awesome there.
I thought that really showed my range as an actor.
Now I have a little pad that you had in the middle of your back.
A little turtle shell.
Now, is that what you normally wear in a situation like that when you're in the ring?
Well, no, because I just wearing a pair of trunks and boots.
Okay, so if I hit you with a chair in the ring, I'm hitting you with, you've been hit with a
Oh, yeah,
chair.
a million of them. You know, and basically what you want to do when you're giving a guy a chair shot, you want to line up perpendicular. So if the guy's on his, say, hands and knees this way, you want to hit him perpendicular to his back.
Do you want Paulie to come over here and be down on the ground? You can tell me what he does?
I mean, we can.
Okay, Paulie, come on over, and then Steve will show us how to.
Yeah, sure.
He's got a folding chair there. Now,
am I getting up?
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead. All right, get up here. So I got.
So, like, say I knock you down, and you're on your hands and knees. And so, okay, if he's here,
yeah,
I can be here and I can hit him, but if I start swinging this thing, this lip could end up hitting him in the back of the head.
Okay.
That's not good. That's going to open him up. So you come here perpendicular, right?
Yeah.
You're using angles. You learn this stuff in school.
Yeah, like a
right.
like.
So when you bring that thing, I mean, you're bringing it from way back because it's a visual.
Yes.
And then he gets pounded. And you're trying to, once you lay that chair in, you're trying to back off a little bit. You don't want to swing through, like a guy trying to hit a baseball, something like that. So you kind of want to pull it, but man, he's going to feel a lot of impact. It's going to hurt. So I can be laying these things in on him. And when you see a guy go belly up, that means no mas. I've had too much.
Oh,
yeah, because see, now look what he's giving me. You got forearms exposed and knees and stuff like that. And so that's when you don't swing another chair, unless, then I'm going to go to this and go to
Like
the solar plexus and midsection.
Like the guillotine.
Yeah.
You're going to stab
And
him.
I did that to The Rock in 17 when I turned heel, but after I lambasted him with a bunch of back shots. But hey, man,
You're good, Paulie.
They don't teach you this in professional wrestling school. It's kind of like on-the-job training.
Not long after we did it, they were worried about kids trying to emulate that, not knowing that you had this little pad in the middle of your back.
Yeah.
And they were worried about that. Because we were professionals, Steve.
We were professionals,
Yes.
and I trusted you.
I know, boy. You know what? When you see the papers flying, like you can hear the wind of that chair. I want to hit you so hard. And you were a nice guy. I had no problem with you. And we have similar builds. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to wail on him. And then when you said, give me another one, I said, I'm going to give you another one. And I gave you everything I had.
Yeah, and if you'd have raised that chair up about 6 inches, you might have clipped me right in the back of the head like I was just demonstrating.
I'm a pro.
Hey, when you go out there and you're doing something like that, first of all, never hit anybody with a steel chair. We're trained professionals.
Kids out there, put the chair down.
But you know what? Well, what I'm saying is, man, when you're laying that chair in somebody, you've got to bring it or you're going to kill the angle. But that person is trusting you to take care of them, and vice versa. So there's a lot that goes into that, but it can be very dangerous.
877-3DP Show. Get to your phone calls coming up. CJ McCollum of the Blazers will join us coming up. Final hour of the program. Craig in Virginia joins us now. Hi, Craig. What's on your mind today?
Hey, guys. First-time caller, 6'1", quarantined 185. Hey, I know we've been talking about the Bulls documentary. Do you guys think the Bulls win the 2 championships without retiring Michael? Of course, he came back late in the second season. Wonder what you guys think about their chances against those Rockets. Thanks, guys, for the show.
You're saying when he went to play baseball, Craig?
Yeah. What do you guys think? You think they reel off 8 straight, or the Rockets team matches up well against them?
Well, it was a different team with the Rockets, and if I say, yeah, the Bulls would have won 8 in a row, then I'm taking something away from the Rockets. The Rockets didn't have to go through Michael Jordan. We all know that. They won that title. They won those 2 titles. That was a really, really good team. And you had one of my favorite players of all time in Hakeem Olajuwon. I would say that the Bulls would have still won those championships just because I would never bet against Michael Jordan. So whether that's being fair in assessing the talent that the Rockets had, probably not being fair. I just know that when Michael was on the floor, he gave you the best chance to win a championship of anybody I had seen. Yeah, Paulie.
A couple things. A while back, we talked about this, and I checked with the odds maker I know who worked in Vegas back then. He said the Bulls would have been the favorite to win the title both years, even with the Rockets winning those seasons going into the season. That Rockets team, the best Rockets team that won the title, Hakeem Olajuwon, Otis Thorpe, Vernon Maxwell, Robert Horry, Kenny Smith, Mario Elie, Sam Cassell. Those are the main lineup.
They had a depth on that team. They went about 8 or 9 deep. And you had Hakeem. You had some good shooters there, too. Kenny Smith, Kenny the Jet was great. Sam Cassell was clutch. Mario Elie was clutch. Robert Horry. You had a lot of talent there. Would they have been able to match up with the Bulls? Who's to say? It would have been a fun matchup there, but I would still always lean with the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls didn't go to a 7th game in any of those NBA finals. They would Now, they had a hard time putting teams away, like Seattle. They might have been up 3-1, and they allowed Seattle to get back in this. And I think they did that a couple of times where you thought, okay, they're going to close things out at home, and then they didn't. Then he'd have to go on the road to do that. But I would not bet against Michael Jordan and Phil Jackson for that matter. Yeah, Paul.
That Bulls team would have had to get through the New York Knicks. That was the East representative that year when Jordan took off. Ewing, Oakley, Starks, Doc Rivers, Anthony Mason, Charles Smith, Greg Anthony, Derek Harper, Hubert Davis. Another deep lineup.
That's a deep lineup as well, and you got shooters in there. You just had to have people who knew how to close out people. I mean, that's what being a champion is all about. There are a lot of players, teams that get to a certain level. It's taking the next step. You know, this happened with Jordan. Jordan would get there, and he would get to the door, and that door would be shut. And then he would go back the next year. That door would be shut. He finally got to the door, then he knocked it down. And then there was never another door for Michael Jordan. Some team, like the New York Knicks with Patrick Ewing, they got to the door, they didn't get through the door. Some of the great teams, there have been great teams that just haven't been able to close people out. And that's because you need that one person who's a great closer, and Jordan's the best closer that I ever saw. You know, Tiger is a great closer, but Michael has to close against other people who are competing with him physically. You know, Tiger was able to close you out. Michael was able to do that as well. That ability to say, okay, now it's my time, and we see that with Michael Jordan. But make no mistake about this. It's not a true documentary on Michael Jordan. Now, I want to see what they say about off the court. I want to see about gambling. How in depth do they get with Michael losing his father? You know, those are the things I don't know about. Everything else in the documentary so far, I know about. And maybe this documentary is not for me. It's for a new generation, just to say to them, hey, you missed me. This will be a refresher course. And it's like the Cliff Notes version of what my career was. Enjoy it. If you think LeBron's pretty good, here, enjoy this. It's almost like a public relations campaign by Michael Jordan and his team to just remind people, LeBron may have better stats than me when it's all said and done. He won't have this. He didn't create this. Michael was in the right place at the right time. LeBron winning the title in Cleveland, that day, Michael decides that he's going to do the documentary. That's not a coincidence. That's a shot across the bow. Just to say, hey, enjoy it, LeBron. Enjoy that celebration, because when this documentary comes out, you're not going to be the second best player. You might be the fifth best player, because it's going to be me, and then there'll be 4 empty spots below me, and then whoever is fifth on the list. Yes, Eden.
Yeah, I've been talking to my son about this because he wants to watch it and see, like, you know, learn all about Michael Jordan. And when I was telling him about Jordan, he said, well, is he better than LeBron James? And I said, yeah, you know, and like his eyes got big and he's like, wow, he must have been really good. It's hard to explain why Michael Jordan was so great to somebody who didn't get to see him play, because when you're watching the highlights, it's like big deal. Like everybody could do that.
Yeah, Paul.
My daughter Molly said the same thing. She was watching the documentary, and I had the bleeped version on, and she was noticing all the back and forth between the Pistons and the Bulls. She goes, well, if they're still mad at each other, why don't they just play again? I'm like, well, they're old and out of shape. And she goes, you and your friends are old and out of shape, and you guys played that basketball league last year.
Yeah, like, that's true.
Well said.
Yeah, the AUAA. There'll be a 30 for 30 on the AUAA, by the way. Let me see. Kentucky A in Boston is on the phone. Kentucky
6'2",
yeah,
225.
All right.
Hey, thanks, guys. Hey, good morning, guys. Just have it on the unofficial word, much like Tom in Ohio. A guy that was an extra in Waterboy has told me that the Boston Red Sox has packed up everything and they're moving to Arizona. I'm giving you the inside scoop on MLB that your MLB insider can't give you. Right?
All right.
It's breaking news. Dave.
Thank you, Kentucky. So, wait, the Red Sox are moving to Arizona? Is that what Kentucky said?
According to Kentucky.
Right? Wrong. Who's screening the calls back there, Marvin? CJ McCollum and the Blazers will join us, and more phone calls coming up here on the very popular, well-listened to Dan Patrick Show.
Dave dresses like he can't afford a hotel room. He's got 3 jackets on right now.
Yeah, what is the deal? You got like a winter hat and then
Well, this is my comedy outfit, and this is my. I also am a fisherman, so I'm ready to go. Waiting for the tide.
He's fishing. He's fishing for insults right now.
Have you ever truly hurt each other's feelings?
You know, to be honest, like I know a lot of. I think we live in a very sensitive world and a very trigger word world. That like we I think funny always wins, and with us especially, I think that we give each other many passes on that kind of stuff because we're both looking for jokes. A lot of it is riffing, so it's like, is it going to work every time? Probably not. But with the audience, sometimes I feel like, all right, maybe we took it too far. But I'll say one thing about Jeff: he is fearless. He really runs at the stuff, and I love that about him. I mean, look at that shirt. That is definitely courage.
Is that a guy who's dressed for today and tomorrow?
Bro, Jeff.
I always wonder that when you see somebody and you go, "What's the shirt you decided not to wear?"
Well, that's why we were late. We had to stop at AutoZone so Dave could get a new outfit.
All right. Wow. Rich, you see what I have to deal with?
That's rough, man.
You really want this life?
So there's no area that's a no-go
Dave's
zone.
dressed like an umpire during a snow delay.
That's so crazy. Just because Jeff looks like a bouncer at a candy store.
I've actually would love that job. This is fun.
But the element of roasting somebody.
Yes. Have you ever been roasted?
Yes.
And how did you
You wrote some jokes for Rich Eisen.
Uh-huh.
15.
Not that long, but I remember
13 years ago.
Yeah.
And Eisen, like I could tell because he wants to be a stand-up comedian.
In a way, he is.
And all of a sudden, he came out of the gate, and I was like, okay. He was told you got to establish where you're going with the roast.
Sure.
Right out of the gate. But when you roast, you ever made somebody cry?
There's one famous roast at the Friars Club. It's not on TV or anything, where the actor who I adore, Danny Aiello, the reviews for his show Della Ventura had just hit, and Richard Belzer started reading the reviews. They had come out that morning, and that kind of softened up Danny so that when I came up and did the actual jokes about the show, I said, your acting was so over the top, they should have called the show Ace Della Ventura or something like that. And Danny started crying during his rebuttal, and he said afterwards it's because he missed his dad, but there's no way. He missed the script rewrites is what he missed for Della Ventura. So sometimes, people, it's a flood of emotions. One time I roasted Jerry Lewis, and he had a heart attack on the way home. So I promised myself I would never roast another person over 80.
Did you roast Justin Bieber?
I did.
How did that go?
That one could have been a 3-part miniseries.
Really?
That was one of the greatest ever.
But it almost helped him.
Oh, yeah.
Because he laughed at himself. He had gotten all this negative publicity, and he took it. He took the bullets.
Well, the lesson with Justin's roast is it was his idea. This rarely happens, but he volunteered. He called up us at Comedy Central and said, I want to be roasted. And he had his heart, but he really called his friends and made it great. And it did give him a reboot. He needed sort of a reboot in the public consciousness, and it was great. He had a big hit record after that.
buckle up, boys. Time to go to work.
Welcome to the Dan Patrick Show.
Immediate dividends.
Bringing you the biggest guests and best interviews.
Mike Renner, Pro Football Focus lead draft analyst. What should the Chargers have done?
They should have moved up. Quite frankly, I thought going in that was their plan. They were going to move up to get Tua Tagovailoa. They need to sell tickets. Tua is a guy that moves the needle personality-wise, with what he's done and the stats he had at Alabama. I think he's a much, much better quarterback prospect. Crazy to me that they didn't and stuck and got Herbert.
Talking to Reggie Miller, the Hall of Famer. Do you think that Michael single-handedly said, I don't want Isaiah on the Dream Team?
Yes. I wouldn't say for a fact, but I think MJ probably said, okay, I'll do it, but Isaiah cannot be on this team.
Broadcasting from the Mercedes Man Cave, this is the Dan Patrick Show.
Final hour on this Tuesday, Dan and the Danettes, Dan Patrick Show. Glad to have you on board. If you're watching, you're listening, emailing, tweeting, part of the chat row. By the way, the chat row is submitting their T-shirt suggestions. They want to have their own T-shirt. And maybe next week we will pare it down and decide which T-shirt we want. Danettes will decide which T-shirts the chat row will be wearing, sporting. 877-3DP Show, email address, dp@danpatrick.com, Twitter handle with DP Show. We got a winner on Todd's scoreboard, the number 67 and 1. Cheryl Mitchell in Jacksonville, Florida is the big winner today. The one would be Cam Newton, I think, 9 years ago today, drafted number 1 overall.
That is correct.
67 has to do, your hint was taken away.
Taken away.
Was this a team that left a city?
This is an individual on the state that got something taken away from him.
Oh, okay.
That would be my favorite history teacher from 6th grade, born in 1960.
Yes, Paulie.
Muhammad Ali.
This might shock and amaze you, but I will retire Joe Frazier. 1967, Muhammad Ali refuses induction into the Army, stripped of his boxing title. It was Clue, taken away in 1967.
All right. Well, thank you, Todd.
You got it.
Paulie does This Day in Sports History in the final segment of the show, so he has a distinct advantage where he's looking at these numbers.
Yes. He does.
Yeah. Now that everybody knows where they can go to see the clues, maybe that'll help them as we move forward. Cheryl wins some T-shirts, some DP Show T-shirts. It's really about the acknowledgement of winning, not what you win on the Dan Patrick Show. Poll question: Are we changed it up?
We changed it up to, if I told you a year ago, which would have surprised you the most, which player not making the Hall of Fame? Andrew Luck, 54%, then Antonio Brown, then Cam Newton.
Yeah, I would say Andrew Luck, because it felt like they finally got it right after those first couple of years where he didn't have a good line at all. You're going to see some names, some not big names, but you're going to see some names that get released from NFL teams. I saw where Cameron Brate, the tight end with the Buccaneers, and maybe he would be on the list. Marlon Mack, the running back with the Colts, might be. Yes. Yeah.
Marlon Mack's awesome. I know they drafted a running back.
Yeah, they did. They drafted a good running back.
Dang.
Yeah, they drafted a good one. And the Buccaneers added another tight end in Rob Gronkowski. I would say any other names on that list or that could be on that list, McLovin?
Well, Andy Dalton.
Oh, of course, Andrew Dalton.
By the way, the list was also potential trades. So I think they would get something for Brate. Then it's funny, there were a lot of wide receivers. There were teams that had wide receivers that drafted them, like Greg Ward Jr. stepped up for the Eagles last year. Now he might get cut. There's a lot of wide receivers enter the league in the draft.
Following the success of the draft, the NFL appears to be shifting its focus to the season now. A report from the Sports Business Journal detailed some of the contingency plans. Now, here are some of the possibilities. The season could be starting in late October. That would push the Super Bowl back in late February. They might eliminate the bye weeks. They wouldn't have a Pro Bowl. And normally, anything the NFL does becomes a big story, whether it's somebody being disciplined, a rule change, something small is what you can wear, not wear. That seems minor in comparison of how the league has handled this season. The NFL is a huge economic driver, obviously, and it has symbolic significance. When you look at the NFL and as it moves forward, it feels like we as a country are moving forward, and maybe not in that order, but you feel like if the NFL is doing it, then it feels like other leagues will follow. The morale boost that you got with the draft, they're going to have the schedule release. I think that's next week. But even if the NFL's best minds are working night and day to figure this out, there's a lot of it that's out of their control. The NFL is powerful, the most powerful league that we have in sports, but that doesn't mean that the NFL can decide how and when we're able to come back and watch football in person, where you can have workouts with these players, how many players can be in a room, how many can be on the football field. The NBA is finding this out in real time. May 1st, they were going to open up the facilities. They've changed that now to May 8th. And I wouldn't be surprised if they changed it again. You're trying, you're hoping, you're pushing, but at some point you just go, okay, we'll surrender for this week and then we'll try for next week. Jeff Passan, the baseball insider from ESPN, was on in the first hour, and he said, I'm optimistic we're going to have baseball. Well, I'm optimistic that we'll have baseball as well. I don't know if realistically we'll be able to have baseball and how many games would constitute a season. This is what the NBA is going to figure out. How many games are going to constitute the end of the regular season and then the postseason? How many games for a Major League Baseball season? They were already talking about 100 games. I think you might dip back even 60 games. Then I think you try to bulk up, make the postseason interesting there. And look, they're trying everything. They talked about maybe starting the season at the All-Star break in Los Angeles, that the postseason was going to be in Los Angeles no matter who is playing in the postseason. They're trying a lot of different things, and they need to. It's just when you put a deadline, it feels like it's not a firm deadline. It feels like it's very flimsy. But it does give us hope. If that's what if you're going, boy, I could use some hope. I need to know when NBA is thinking about coming back. I need to know when they're coming back, not here's a possible date that we're coming back. Yeah, Paul.
I wonder if, like Major League Baseball, you would start with the opposite order, almost like how far can we push back the World Series to buy us more regular season? Can we do a World Series in November 15th, or is that too dangerous with weather, and then buy us a couple more weeks of possible regular season revenue?
Well, you had Scott Boras, the agent to the Stars, saying, hey, let's have baseball at the end, after Christmas, which is crazy. Unless you're saying, hey, if the Yankees are in the World Series, you got to play all your games in Los Angeles. You're going to have a so-called neutral site. Well, what if the neutral site is Los Angeles and the Dodgers are there? So the Dodgers host all 7 World Series games. At some point you have to cut your losses and say, let's do it and do it with this amount of time, these games, and these destinations. We can hold out hope that we're going to come back and the Yankees will play at Yankee Stadium in front of no fans, because I think that's what's going to happen. The NBA is going to come back, and there's not going to be fans there. The NHL will come back. There won't be fans there. Golf is going to come back. There won't be any galleries there. Tennis will come back. There won't be any fans in the stands. It's not going to happen. And it's not from me, just with my educated guess. These are doctors who are assessing this and saying, even the Olympics pushed back to July of next year, that would be in doubt because you can't get all of those people in one city, and they're going to be in all of these stadiums and arenas. We don't have a vaccine yet. And until you have that, I don't know how comfortable people are going to be going back to games. Yeah, Paul.
The one I'm most curious about is college football, because what is there, 32 NFL teams? There's probably 125 college football teams around the country. We focus on Alabama, LSU, but all states have small colleges, Division III, Division II,
well, you got 300
college football teams.
Yeah.
And if colleges go back to school and have games and try to have no fans and no tailgating, that's going to be an uphill battle to try to have the games with no fans, because the revenue in college football is all about fans on premises.
But I don't think you can have both.
Right.
That's the point, is if you said to me, we're going to have football and no fans, okay, I might not like that because I don't have the environment that we would expect with a college football game, but I'm going to get a college football game. You're not going to be able to go, hey, that's not right or that's not fair. It's not either or. This is what it's going to be. You're going to have games without fans. Just going to. I think the NFL season gets delayed. I think that college football gets delayed. The NBA, if you get back, it's going to be compressed postseason. And baseball, when it comes back, are you going to get to less than 100 games? And I think you are. How far do you stretch it? The Super Bowl is going to be played in late February, but I think that they were pushing towards that anyway to get it on President's Day weekend. So it's just, it's different. You know, Augusta is not going to have the roar of the crowd. At least probably not in November. I don't know. Now, Augusta does things on their own agenda. They have their own agenda, and they, they're able to control that product. But I think you have robotic cameras at Augusta. You're not going to have galleries there. It will be strange to not hear, because you'd be amazed that when you take out the noise, how much that takes away from the game itself. We've relied on that so much. The ambiance is so important when you're watching a game. And when you're watching golf, when you hear the roar of the crowd, and there's no other place in America, in the world, when it comes to golf, when you hear the roar of the crowd than Augusta. Because the close proximity of all the holes with those trees, and it just keeps everything inside. And it feels like somebody can do something on 16 green, and I can be on the fairway at 2, and it'll feel like I'm right there. It's that loud, and it's that compact. You're going to miss that. You know, tennis at the U.S. Open, you're not going to have the roar of the crowd there. It's just trying to get used to what we're going to consider the new normal. And there's nothing normal about this. Yeah, Paul.
I think Seton mentioned it maybe 2 weeks ago. The idea of NBA basketball being played and the players going to timeouts and talking, and they're going to have to try to not listen in. They're going to have to turn the mics off, or else we're going to hear all the plays being called. If there's essential personnel only at an NBA game, it's going to be a ghost town, and you're going to hear everything the players say to each other, which will be both fascinating and troubling for the teams trying to call plays.
Yeah, I wonder what you're going to hear. Now, I would be fascinated by it, because having sat down close to these games, the things you do hear during a game, you're kind of surprised. Whether you're in a huddle, who's talking, the language that's used, just when guys who say something to somebody, it's interesting. The fans with what they say. Not that I'm looking forward to it, but I'm interested to hear and see how that feels when we get that opportunity. Mike in Florida. Hey, Mike.
What's happening, Dan? Hey, with all this talk about the NFL shortening their season, really what I'm concerned about is my fantasy league, man. We're going into our 19th season. Usually it's a 13-game season. What is the ramifications going to be? It's already bad enough. It's bad enough that I'm going to miss the next Top Gun that comes out in the movies next month. I've been waiting 35 years for that. I'm probably going to have to wait for it to come out on digital or whatever. Hopefully things are going to get better soon, so my life is okay.
Yep, and that's what we're all concerned about, Mike. Thank you. My goal is to have Mike have his life go back to normal. We'll keep an eye on that with your
Waiting
fantasy.
35 years for the new Top Gun.
Yep, that'll give you an idea of Mike's life. Yes, McLovin.
I have an NBA question for you. If they did a tournament, like a 3-week tournament, would they crown a champion? That wouldn't be the season champion. And would that be satisfying to NBA fans to have that?
This year, if they...
Yeah, say in July they did a 3-week tournament or 4-week tournament.
Well, how many games, how many teams make it, and how many games are they going to have each series? Because that goes back to what I was told. They might have a best of 3 to start out opening round, then best of 5, then best of 7. It'll have an asterisk by it. And it would probably mean that LeBron would win, and therefore they'd go, yeah, he's got 3.5 titles. That he doesn't get a 4th one. He's not up there with Michael.
The worst thing in the world that could happen to LeBron James this year is for him to win a title.
Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah, that was the Corona season. Yeah, that doesn't count. You don't get credit for that. Michael never had a half a playoffs. The year of the Jordan documentary, and then you would have LeBron trying to answer with an NBA title, and then he would win the title, but it'd have an asterisk by it. Good stuff. I am fascinated to see what happens. You're going to have the Kobe element of the Jordan and Bulls documentary coming up, because that's going to be the next wave of players. You're also going to have the emergence of Air Jordan as a global brand. I would imagine Spike Lee, who played Mars Blackman in those Nike commercials so brilliantly, I'm going to guess the next couple of episodes may be focusing in on the heir apparents to Michael Jordan and the different players that we had with Grant Hill and Tracy McGrady. You go down the list, Vince Carter, and then you got to Kobe. Kobe's as close as we've ever gotten to Michael Jordan. LeBron isn't. LeBron's different. But Kobe is as close as we'll ever get, and probably didn't get enough credit for being that close to being the next Michael Jordan. He won the titles. Granted, he probably could have won a few more if, he had played nice with Shaq. But, that's a 30 for 32. You start to listen and you start to reminisce about, these teams, and you go, boy, that'd be a great 30 for 30. The Celtics in the 80s with Larry Bird. But you have to have that footage, too. That's what makes it different. It has to look like something you've never seen before, because with the Jordan documentary, you haven't seen a lot of this footage. And you might say, well, boy, not much to that. There's so much of Jordan. Everything that Jordan did is available. One of the benefits Jordan had was everything that he did, you can go and watch the videos. Some of his predecessors, you weren't able to do that. LeBron, everything has been documented. Everything. And then you bring in social media. If social media was around, Michael would have taken a few slings and arrows there. There would have been, the picture phones. There would have been a lot of salacious stuff there. Mike was able to still keep it quiet there. Not much got out. And even now, guys are afraid to talk about Michael Jordan. Make no mistake about it. Right? Like, Reggie doesn't like Michael, but he respects Michael, and said, if I saw him and I went into a restaurant and saw him, I might want to punch him. Now, maybe that's hyperbole, but you could tell that Reggie is still bothered by this, because that's how you felt back then. You had these rivalries. They were true rivalries, not, hey, we're going to act like we don't like each other. You had people who did not like one another.
They didn't vacation together.
No, they did not. The amazing part so far of the Jordan documentary, the Bulls documentary, is Michael played golf with Danny Ainge in Boston the day before he lit up the Celtics for 63. I'm shocked. Even now, after the fact, I'm shocked that Jordan would play golf with Danny Ainge, who he was going to compete against the next day. But Mike always had a game going, had to do something. He was restless. But it figures you could have played golf with somebody else in the Boston area, not the guy you're going to compete against the next day and put up 63. Because Mike, I don't know what his relationship was with Danny Ainge, but the fact that he would, Danny Ainge was a tough competitor too. But he wasn't guarding Jordan that day. It was Dennis Johnson. Poor DJ. DJ, Hall of Famer, and rest his soul. I think Ainge took some money off Jordan, and Jordan basically said, hey, you tell DJ I got something for him. And he did. Yeah, Paul.
Even playing golf between playoff games, golf's not the most strenuous sport of all time, but there is some walking, some physicality, and some, effort that goes into it. Can you imagine if a big-time NBA player right now was seen between almost back-to-back games playing golf on the one-off day?
He would play 36 holes. Jordan didn't just play 18. He played 36. Indefatigable. How about that one? Nick in Maine, then we'll take a break here and make way for C.J. McCollum of the Blazers. Hey, Nick.
Hey, Dan. Long-time listener, huge fan. And with this whole Michael Jordan Last Dance thing going on, I'm wondering, when are we going to hear about Dan Patrick's Last Dance? And when's he going to write his book?
Oh, no. There's no book. No, there's no Last Dance. There's none of that. No. Some things you just take with you. You don't have to say things, write a book. No, we're good. There was no film crew following Keith Olbermann and myself for the big show. And the final days of the big show.
Can you imagine how unentertaining that would have been? Like after work, you go home and have 2 beers and go to sleep. Keith probably reads Stratomatic baseball stuff.
But if you were there at the mothership during the evening is where it got interesting. Usually in the afternoon, because I'd come in and I would see Keith, and I could tell what the night was going to be like. DP, and I'd go, uh-oh. Just his mood. When I came in, I could tell. And then, he'd say, sent this missive to management. I go, missive? Yeah, he'd send a missive. And I went, oh, boy. Somebody, what's happening? Like, can you believe? And then he would tell me, how he was upset about something. And then I'd always say, really? I don't know. Is it that important? And then there were other things where it might have been the lights in the parking lot. Can you believe that Linda Cohn has to walk out there to her car and the lights are on, not on, and and I go. But I will say that probably 90% of the time, at least 80% of the time, I agreed with what he was saying. He actually championed people far more than those people ever understood. He was a really good team player, provided you were on his team. Because if you weren't, he was not. He was like Jordan. He could be tough on you. All right, 21 after the hour. We'll get to more phone calls coming up. You know who I spoke to yesterday? I'll take a break here. I'll tease this. No, I'm going to take a break because you wouldn't think that this person would be on our show tomorrow, but I booked them. So, Todd, don't be putting that down that, when you say to management. Here's the hint. Yeah. Eat it, Todd.
Oh.
That's the hint. We'll take a break here.
Weird Al?
Weird Al? Eat
Weird
it!
Yeah.
Eat it!
You did eat it? Yeah.
No, I don't remember that. No, I tried not to. I just remembered. 22 after the hour. Back after this in the Dan Patrick Show. You check things all the time. You check your email. You check your Instagram. Fritzy checks himself in the mirror. How about you check something important like your credit? Discover makes it quick and easy. Best of all, it's free. Your FICO credit score. That's the score used by 90% of top lenders. Discover's offering that for free, even if you're not a customer. Checking your score won't hurt your credit. Check each month for changes. The Discover Credit Scorecard, it's free for everyone. Learn more at discover.com/credit scorecard. Discover.com/credit scorecard. Limitations apply.
Dave dresses like he can't afford a hotel room. He's got 3 jackets on right now.
Yeah, what is the deal? You got like a winter hat and then
this is my comedy outfit, and this is my. I also am a fisherman, so I'm ready to go. Waiting for the tide.
He's fishing. He's fishing for insults right now.
Have you ever truly hurt each other's feelings?
To be honest, like I know a lot of. I think we live in a very sensitive world and a very trigger word world. That like we I think funny always wins, and with us especially, I think that we give each other many passes on that kind of stuff because we're both looking for jokes. A lot of it is riffing, so it's like, is it going to work every time? Probably not. But with the audience, sometimes I feel like, all right, maybe we took it too far. But I'll say one thing about Jeff: he is fearless. He really runs at the stuff, and I love that about him. I mean, look at that shirt. That is definitely courage.
Is that a guy who's dressed for today and tomorrow?
Bro, Jeff.
I always wonder that when you see somebody and you go, "What's the shirt you decided not to wear?"
Well, exactly. That's why we were late. We had to stop at AutoZone so Dave could get a new outfit.
All right. Wow. Chris, you see what I have to deal with?
That's rough, man.
You really want this life?
So there's no area that's a no-go zone.
Dave's dressed like an umpire during a snow delay.
That's so crazy. Just because Jeff looks like a bouncer at a candy store.
I've actually would love that job. This is fun.
But the element of roasting somebody.
Yes. Have you ever been roasted?
Yes.
And how'd you
wrote some jokes for Rich Eisen. 15.
Not that long, but I remember
13 years ago.
Yeah.
And Eisen, like I could tell because he wants to be a stand-up comedian.
In a way, he is.
And all of a sudden, he came out of the gate, and I was like, okay. He was told you got to establish where you're going with the roast.
Sure.
Right out of the gate. But when you roast, you ever made somebody cry?
There's one famous roast at the Friars Club. It's not on TV or anything, where the actor who I adore, Danny Aiello, the reviews for his show Della Ventura had just hit, and Richard Belzer started reading the reviews. They had come out that morning, and that kind of softened up Danny, so that when I came up and did the actual jokes about the show, I said, your acting was so over the top, they should have called the show Ace Della Ventura or something like that. And Danny started crying during his rebuttal, and he said afterwards it's because he missed his dad, but there's no way. He missed the script rewrites is what he missed for Della Ventura. So sometimes, people, it's a flood of emotions. One time I roasted Jerry Lewis, and he had a heart attack on the way home. So I promised myself I would never roast another person over 80.
Did you roast Justin Bieber?
I did.
How did that go?
That one could have been a 3-part miniseries.
Really?
That was one of the greatest ever.
But it almost helped him.
Oh, yeah.
Because he laughed at himself. He had gotten all this negative publicity, and he took it. He took the bullets.
Well, the lesson with Justin's roast is it was his idea. This rarely happens, but he volunteered. He called up us at Comedy Central and said, I want to be roasted. And he had his heart, but he really called his friends and made it great. And it did give him a reboot. He needed sort of a reboot in the public consciousness, and it was great. He had a big hit record after that.
Tomorrow on the program, at this time, Guy Fieri from Triple D, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. He'll join us. He's raising some money for restaurant workers, and I'm sure he'll want to talk about the Oakland, now Vegas Raiders as well. So that'll be tomorrow on the program. Joining us now is the pride of Lehigh, the pride of Canton, Ohio, the Portland Trail Blazers guard, CJ McCollum, his podcast, the Pull Up Podcast, alongside Jordan Schultz. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you can get your podcasts. Good morning, CJ. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm good. What did you think of your Cleveland Browns draft?
I liked it. I think I'll give it a B minus right now until the players actually step on the field. But I like the protection for Baker. I love the safety out of LSU. We also grabbed a tight end, I believe. So I'm looking forward to seeing how everybody pans out, and hopefully we can sneak a wild card appearance this year.
When the Browns lose, how does that affect you?
My mood changes. My mood definitely changes. It's similar to how you feel when it rains outside. You become a little bit down on yourself. You're a little grouchy, and it's just hard to go on until the next win.
Yeah, but it always rains in Portland, so you're always grouchy.
We get sunny days here and there, especially now, this time of the year. We get 80 and sunny, 75 and sunny like San Diego.
How's the court at home? How much hooping are you doing?
I haven't shot a basketball in over a month. So I'm not doing any hooping. I don't have a court. I got a nice home here, beautiful landscaping, and I'm in distance to drive to the practice facility. And I felt like my 24-hour access would always be available. Now it's been taken away, and I've been forced to do home workouts without a basketball.
Wait, I'm shooting more hoops than you are right now?
Absolutely. If you've shot in the last month, you definitely probably have a better jump shot than me right now.
I shot 30 minutes ago, CJ. I'm pumping out jumpers. I mean, I can send you a video just so you can see what the form looks like. They call me, the older Klay Thompson.
I'd love to see the form. I'm sure you probably have a beautiful set shot.
A set shot? Wow. Do you have a neighbor close by who has a basketball hoop?
There's a few basketball courts around me, but I just don't feel right, to shoot on a neighbor's court, especially since we're practicing social distancing.
I think you just let the neighbors know, I'm going to come over and I'm going to work out for an hour. If everybody could stay in the house, then that way you practice safe distancing there.
I actually just got the garage coach to one of my teammates that used to live out here. So I'm going to start going to work out at his house since he's in Miami.
What kind of playing shape are you in?
I'm close.
How much time are you going to – I'm worried about you, CJ. I'm worried about the jumper. Do you have a gut?
No. I'm close to my playing weight, close to my playing body fat. I'm still working out. Like, I lift every day. I have cardio. I'm occasionally hopping fences and checking out the turf at certain places. But, I haven't gotten caught like Tom Brady just yet. So I've been enjoying the freedom out here in Oregon to run around and get some fresh air.
He's C.J. McCollum, the Blazers guard. His podcast, the Pull Up Podcast, alongside Jordan Schultz, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere else you can get your podcast. What have you been thinking? What's your reaction to the Jordan documentary, on the Bulls documentary?
I've loved it. I really enjoyed the stories that they share. A lot of the small details that you maybe aren't familiar with or don't remember are being brought to the forefront. I think it was great to really just focus on Dennis Rodman for a little bit, because he's such an intriguing figure and a guy who was polarizing the game of basketball and eventually became a Hall of Famer. So I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to see the rest of it. I wish it was longer than 10 episodes. I wish I could watch all of it in one day, but it made Fun Sundays that much more fun.
Can you compare LeBron to Michael Jordan?
You can, but you can't, because their approaches are different. There's obviously, 168, 250, 260. The eras are different. Jordan is more, I guess it's funny, people say it all the time. Jordan's mentality was more like Kobe. LeBron's mentality was more like Magic, point forward, flashing, makes the game more fun for everybody. Kobe and Jordan were more assassins in terms of scoring in that approach. But you can compare their greatness. I think that's something you can compare, the impact they've had on the game, how they're both global figures. And one thing's for certain, we've all kind of patterned our games after Jordan, especially early on, with the wristband, the tongue out, the fadeaways. I think they're both elite in their own right, and both will be considered, on many people's Mount Rushmores.
How about we pick teams and you get the first pick? You can have Jordan or you can have LeBron. Who do you want as your teammate?
What year are we in? Is this 91? Is this prime? Is this 28 to 32-year-old Jordan? Like, what are we doing here?
Both players are 30.
Both players are 30?
Yeah.
I mean, I think I would flip a coin, and hopefully the coin lands on heads, and heads is Mike.
So you're taking Mike. Okay. I mean, Mike's probably.
I'm taking Mike right now because LeBron's still not finished. LeBron's still got a lot of left in the tank. He can still get more championships, more MVPs. He can solidify his legacy as the all-time leading scorer and all-time leading assist, or second to Stockton, about the second to Stockton in assists.
Can you imagine? Is there anybody like Dennis Rodman in the league now?
No, I don't think so. With the mentality, the ability to go get 30 rebounds, I mean, he's the only selfless guy I know right now that, would go play a whole game and not care if they ran a play for him. I think Draymond's another guy who wouldn't care if they ran a play for him. But there aren't a lot of guys out there that would be selfless, would rebound, guard 1 through 5, and, make the headlines that night, for having orange or pink hair, and being in the club with Carmen Electra or someone.
Or Madonna.
Or Madonna. Yeah, he's the only guy that I know that would have the guts to ask for a vacation in the middle of the season and be granted one.
But having been there during those championship runs, and you'd see Rodman come down the hall, and he might have makeup on, he might have a dress on, and you got to the point where you just said, "Oh, Dennis is here." It would become so normal to see Dennis, but he was so abnormal when you consider the way the league was, and he didn't care what you thought of him because he was going to go out and get you whatever you wanted, and he was going to play defense. He'd get to the free throw line, CJ, and he didn't even want to be at the free throw line. He didn't care if he made his free throws. He wanted nothing to do with scoring, it's amazing. You're right. There's nobody like that.
Yeah, it's amazing the impact he was able to have on the game. Like you said before, coming in dresses, the makeup. He was an iconic figure. I remember the wedding he did in New York where he wore the dress.
Yeah.
He had essentially a parade. He's unlike anything we've ever seen, unlike anything we will ever see. And I think that just kind of shows you, the impact he had. For the Bulls to take a chance on a guy like Dennis Rodman after he was basically, thrown out in the trash, to take that chance and to win 3 championships, Phil Jackson, the Bulls, they deserve a lot of credit because not a lot of teams and coaches would have been willing to take on a player like Dennis at that point.
Who's the guest you want on your podcast you haven't spoken to?
Put me on the spot here. That's a good one. I would say while we're in the conversation and having it, I would go Michael Jordan.
No, you can't get Michael. You can't get a basketball player.
I can't have a basketball player.
Nope.
Any profession, any field.
Yeah.
I'd go Michelle Obama.
Okay. Well, if I said you could interview Michelle Obama or Michael Jordan.
Oh man, that's tough. I'd probably go Michelle because we haven't heard a lot of behind-the-scenes stories besides her book and some of the stuff she's come out and said. I know a lot about Michael. I know Michael. So I'd probably rather have a conversation with Michelle just to learn more about what it was like to be a first lady, obviously, the first African-American president. And just so many behind-the-scenes stories that we probably, weren't exposed to.
If I said you could shoot hoops with Jordan now or President Obama?
President Obama.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it would be cool to shoot with Mike, too.
Yeah, but it's just shooting with Mike. That's not a big deal. You want to be playing against Mike. President Obama, you would like to shoot hoops with him because you're not allowed to play tough defense on him.
Right. You can't pressure him.
No. Let's like today's NBA. You're not allowed to put your hands on anybody. Right?
There's no hand checking essentially nowadays.
How do you think you would have done against the bad boys? Let's say you were going against Detroit.
I think I would have fared all right because of the way I play. I think my game translates to a lot of different areas. I think certain players' skill sets, like Steph Curry, I mean, those are guys who, they have elite skill, elite ball handling, elite quickness, shot credibility, being able to shoot from far out. I think I would have fared just fine because of my size and ability to just create. Obviously, it's different. It would have been different, but I think I would have been all right.
Just don't go to the hoop, though, CJ.
I shoot jumpers the whole game anyway. So I would have been perfect. I would have been perfect in that situation.
Good luck in trying to get your jumper to look like mine. You got a little bit of time before you have to get back, but the Pull Up Podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever else you can get your podcast. Great to check in with you, CJ. Thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
That's CJ McCollum. He went to Lehigh. They, of course, were put on the basketball map that year when they beat Duke in the NCAA tournament. Then I think the next round they lost to Xavier. But CJ's from Canton, Ohio. Yeah, Paul.
You don't have a neighbor with a driveway with a hoop in it?
All I know is Steph Curry, his wife just ordered a basketball hoop for him because I think he moved into a new house and the crib didn't have a basketball hoop.
Imagine you're on with customer service at the basketball hoop place and say, yeah, I'm Mrs. Curry, Miss Steph and Mrs. Curry, we're ordering a basketball hoop. You think you're being punked.
I don't know what kind of hoop you can get on Amazon, though. I mean, I don't want one of the portable ones. Where you have the base has got like water in it or something, and then it's kind of flimsy. Fritzy, do you got a hoop at home? There's no way he's listening to me.
I just was clicking from
Yeah.
unmute to.
No,
Yes, I
no,
do.
don't.
I do have a hoop at home.
McLevin, you live in Brooklyn. How close are you to a hoop?
About 3 blocks, but they're all shut down. They have fences around them.
Well, they took down the actual rims in a lot of these courts in New York City. Seton, you got a basketball hoop?
We have one that we kind of it's really our neighbors, but we split a driveway.
Yeah.
So it's technically in my driveway, even though it's theirs. And we have a park about 2 blocks away that has 4 hoops there, but all of those hoops have been taken down.
CJ McCollum, not having a hoop there. He hadn't shot in a month. I mean, I know it's like riding a bicycle there, but he's got to get ready here maybe in a couple of weeks, be able to start getting ready to play basketball. All right, we'll take a break. We'll tell you what we learned, what's in store tomorrow, final results of the poll question, this day in sports history, and your phone calls right after this. Don in Michigan joins us. Hi, Don. What do you have for me?
Hi, Dan. Love the show. You guys do a great job. Don't change. My free baseball ticket story, straight A's that I never had. I'm 64, so this happened in the middle 60s, Catholic school. They used to handwrite your report card, and you bring it home, have mom and dad sign it, take it back. Well, they switched to printing it on the dot matrix printer, computerized it. Got my report card, and there was like a blank report card underneath the report card, which I stuck in a typewriter, and I gave myself straight A's. Got on the bus in Cleveland, took it down to Cleveland Municipal Stadium. They gave you 20 reserve tickets for the Indians. They had to get people in the stadium back then, and never got caught. They gave me the tickets. My older brother convinced me I was going to spend time in the slammer for this, but I never did. For that or anything else, I turned out okay. But love your show.
Don, do you feel better that you got it off your chest there? You've been holding this for decades now.
Oh, I have not. I've told a lot of people that I know they thought it was hilarious.
Okay.
My daughters found one of my old report cards in the basement once when they were helping Grandma and Grandpa clean out the basement. And I got to, Dad, come on over here. We need to talk to you.
Thank you, Don. We appreciate that. Did anybody ever change a grade on their report card? Paulie?
Yeah, like 7th grade, it was really, really ugly. Really ugly.
But there's only a couple letters that you can actually change into something else.
You'd be surprised, Dan.
Like an F to a B.
D to a B.
D to a B?
D to a B was the simplest.
It's a classic.
And the most common.
I think I did it. I think so. But you had to have your parents sign your report card. So you had to make sure that they were, they saw it. Yeah, Fritzy.
I had a kid in my biology class that changed the grade from like 68 to 88. He did something with his pen, and instead of obviously taking his word for it, the biology teacher took out this fancy microscope and had a way of putting it under there to see the strands of the ink and matched up the colors and to see that one was over the other, and he was able to figure out that it was definitely something that was added after the fact, after the grade was
And what
handed
was
to
his
him.
name?
His name was Lewis Miller, I believe.
Rat him out. National TV.
God.
Narc.
The ink didn't match up right, or you could tell if you look closely enough that one thing was written over the initial thing that the teacher put on, and that was pretty amazing.
But if he was that smart and trying to do that, couldn't he have been smart enough to not get a 68 on a test?
You would think. It was a very tough one.
Like I wasn't capable of, either one of those things.
I think that particular test was like a midterm, and there was like asexual reproduction on it, and there's just all kinds of stuff that was tougher than the average test. But he was a very good student, and how embarrassing was that? And he didn't even take him over to the side into another room or to a lab. Right in front of all of us, he takes out the microscope, so we're all watching this happen.
You're ratting him out.
Yeah, sorry, Louis.
You just ratted him out.
Not cool.
Snitches get stitches.
So embarrassing, though.
Yeah.
He lives close. He lives right across the bridge. Dan.
Called the kid over and showing him under the microscope like how it was added after the fact and that you cheated. Not only did you get a bad grade and you tried to trick me, I could tell that the ink is over mine.
Yes,
Now Lewis's boss is listening, and
Yeah.
he's like, "Let me go back over those reports Lewis has been submitting."
You know what? Let me see your resume again.
That's odd.
It says you were a 3.5 grade point average here. Come here, Lewis. I'm going to see how long it takes Penny to know, just hearing the sound, before she comes out from underneath. So I'm making noises with the COOKIES's. This cookie tastes good. Oh, you want a cookie? Oh, this cookie is so good. Should I eat the cookie? Well, should I eat the cookie? Do you want the cookie? Oh, you do? Well, come here then. Okay, I didn't know you liked cookies. Well, come on out here. There she is. Sit. Wait. Come here. Good girl. Good girl. Okay, come here. Come here, girl. Oh, I don't want you scared. Because Rob's a jerk right there. He ruined our fun. Can't we just eat cookies together? Good girl. Yeah, good girl. That's it. That's it. Time to go back to bed. Take a nap. See you later. See you tomorrow. Good girl. You want to come out here and say hello? Come here. Come here. Come here. Hey, what's the deal? Come here. Saying. Guy Fieri from Triple D, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. Join us on the program tomorrow.
Flavor Town.
Yep. Headed to Flavor Town. Oh, it's Sophie in California set to join us. Hey, Soph, how are you this morning?
Dan, it's been a long time. I'm very well. How about you? How are my favorite geezers doing? Sounds like you guys are surviving.
Everything is great. We're surviving-ish here. Yeah, Paulie.
Sophie,
Yeah.
I got to tell you, Sophie, as a Liverpool fan, we found a way not to get the Premier League title.
So, Paulie, I've been thinking about you a lot, and it's been brewing because, as you've seen, the Dutch League, the Belgian League, and today the French League have all been cancelled. And the pressure is now growing on the Premier League in terms of what are they going to do. They have until May 25th to decide on their next move. We've seen West Ham, we've seen Arsenal and Tottenham go back to training, but players moving in groups at different times, training on individual pitches. I think the thing with the Premier League and the biggest thing at stake here is the TV deal. It's worth $2 billion. And as we know, the sponsorship money and that part of it is really what is navigating how they're going to move next. But as the country is still trying to find its feet and Boris Johnson is trying to figure out the next moves, there are a lot of fans who think that the Premier League should follow suit with the other European leagues. So it's a huge dilemma right now from a moral point of view, in terms of humanity, but also a moral point of view, Dan and Paulie, in terms of how does this play out? Liverpool still have 6 points they need to win the title. So if you void the season and hand it to them, there's going to be that MLB type of asterisk next to it.
I was watching the Sunderland Till I Die documentary. That was really well done.
So good.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that, but it was, just the fact that they were once a powerhouse in the Premier League, and then they get relegated, and then they get relegated again. And you're just watching how, these relationships and the pressure, and it was fascinating. I really enjoyed it.
Dan, Sunderland is still a big club, even though they've dropped a couple of leagues. If there's an American sports owner out there that wants to buy a club, Sunderland is as big as Newcastle. And Newcastle right now is looking at a takeover, which is also very controversial because the takeover is rumored to be the Saudi prince. But Sunderland have suffered. They've invested millions and millions of dollars in this club, but they still have that fan base. And I would say, arguably, Sunderland and Newcastle, and some fans may not understand this, but in terms of fan base, they're bigger than Manchester City. Manchester City have had a lot of glory because of the investment that has been made in them, but as a club, they have a smaller supporter group. Sunderland Till I Die is one of those perfect examples of you don't need it to be a Manchester United, Manchester City, Chelsea or Arsenal story for it to be engaging. It's probably one of the most successful sports football documentaries that we've seen, and it has a great story. So
yeah, it was very enjoyable.
Really interesting, Dan. And The Last Dance as well is evoking a lot of soccer fans craving for that 80s and 90s competitiveness, that hatred. That a lot of people don't like that word, but that pure kind of rivalry, you just can't beat it. Arsenal and Man United had it in the 90s when the Premier League was set off. Liverpool had it in the 80s when everyone hated them and wanted to beat them. And so it's actually evoked a lot of emotions in soccer fans as well, and I just wanted to share that with you too.
Great to hear from you, Sophie. Hope you're well, and thank you again.
Take care, mate. Take care,
All
everyone.
right. That's Sophie, who usually gives us a soccer update. Did you see the hat I had over here, Paulie?
Yeah, you're pretty cool. Where'd you get that?
What? You're not the only one who follows Liverpool.
When did you become a Liverpool fan? This week? Last week?
It was.
Seton, help me out.
I think it was.
They've had tough times my entire.
I know that, and I've struggled through those times with you. But yeah, I got LFC. I got.
They'll never walk alone, right?
Have her? Yeah. I've had this for God, I don't know how many days.
I know it's tough to choose because you love them all, but
Yeah.
who's your favorite player of all time in Liverpool? Or do you just love them all?
I love them all.
Yeah, you love them all equally.
Oh, I love them. Because I used to be a Leeds fan. You remember that?
Sure, I remember that week.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, Leeds, I was big on that.
Leicester City?
Oh, yeah, when I pronounced it Leicester City.
Yeah.
Oh. But I did have one of the greatest upsets of all time. I just didn't have the name correct.
You told Rebecca Lowe to start the Premier League season where Leicester City won the title. I think I'm going to jump on a Leicester City bandwagon just because you thought the name was fun.
And I said, that's the team I'm following this year is Leicester City. And she goes, Dan, it's Leicester City.
It still bothers her, though, that you called it.
I know.
Accidentally.
All right. Yeah. Okay. This day in sports history, what do we have?
This is a weird one, Dan. This day,
Didn't we already do that today?
Yeah, 10 times. 2015, the Baltimore Orioles beat the White Sox 8-2 at Camden Yards. The game was played without a crowd present due to ongoing riots and protests in Baltimore. 2015, the first time and last time the Major League Baseball has ever played in front of an empty house 3 years ago today.
That was an afternoon game, I believe.
It was.
All right. We did
Good
the
for
other.
you. It was a 2 o'clock game.
Yeah. They
And don't sleep on this one, Dan. Craig McTavish announced his retirement in 97 from the NHL after 17 years. That's all I had left because Fritzy took it all.
Fritzy now taking it over with his scoreboard contest.
I apologize for that.
Yeah, you should. Final results of the poll question, McLevin. By the way, Tom Brady is not in trouble for going over to his offensive coordinator's house. Byron Leftwich, Tom went into the wrong house in Tampa, and I guess some of the front office people in the NFL were like, hey, you can't be there with your coaches. You're not allowed to do that. And so Tom, I guess, is not in trouble.
What about breaking and entering? Anything on that?
I don't. If you open the door and walk in, is that breaking and entering?
If you walk into an unlocked door of a house that you weren't invited to,
is that breaking? You're entering.
It's entering.
The people didn't seem mad.
But I don't know if you're breaking. You're entering, but you're not breaking. Maybe trespassing there. Yes, McLovin.
Poll result, who would you be most surprised about not making the Hall of Fame? Andrew Luck runs away with it.
Yeah. Fritzy, start with you. What did you learn on today's program?
Isaiah and the Pistons should not apologize for their behavior toward the Bulls and not shaking hands. They're the bad boys, for crying out loud.
Yes, own it. Good God. Carry it with you. Keep it there. That's what made you great. You didn't care about anybody, and now you care? McLovin.
You're often referred to as an older Klay Thompson.
I refer to myself as an older Klay Thompson. Nobody else does. Seton O'Connor.
Basketball players don't have hoops at their house.
Yeah, go figure. Paulie, what'd you learn?
CJ McCollum hasn't played basketball in a month.
Yeah. What did I learn, Todd?
Name dropper Bob Sack that pals with Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, Robin Williams, Rodney Dangerfield, and Sam Kinison. Wow.
What we learned brought to you by LegalZoom. They make it easy to set up the right estate plan without leaving your home. Take care of your family today with the right estate plan at LegalZoom.com. Thanks for letting us be part of your lives. We'll do it again tomorrow. Dan Patrick Show.